Okay, this should be Summoning Insight, episode 34. I'm Thorin. I'm back again. You can't get rid of me. At this point, I'm actually untouchable because my plan is by never making money, then it's actually impossible for me to be fired and like that money to be a risk in any way. That's my new secret. Okay, I'm like going through the bottom and eventually I'm going to come out the top. And in a world where we move beyond money, like eventually Monty, this fiat currency of money will actually be worth nothing, it will just be paper. And eventually we'll move into a post-apocalyptic world where like oil and like roving bands of thugs, much like, like Sons of Anarchy or something, will be what it's all about. So instead I'm actually trying to just like learn like jujitsu and how to make a compass out of like a leaf and a magnetized paper clip or something. I can't even remember where I got that from. Some Boy Scouts or something. And so, yeah, I'm Thorin, host of Summoning Insight here. And my co-host, as usual, Monte Cristo, who, for the moment, at least let me just check. At the moment, you are still on the Riot broadcast for LCK, right? You are still on
That's right. LCK, the greatest acronym to ever exist.
I couldn't tell because, you see, what happens is Riot, their method, I've actually figured out a theory for you guys. The reason why Riot hates Gambit and they always used to like fuck with Gambit and like make members leave Gambit and always have visa problems is because Riot wanted for themselves that slogan that, once you give them a finger, they take the whole arm. So that's like their approach to taking over broadcasting money. They say like, no, we're just going to take over it in name. But then initially they start like removing people, for the good of the realm and all that. Because, Riot's very much like Varus in many ways, or Littlefinger, depending on who you are on this show. Anyway. And so they gradually remove people, and eventually, next thing you know, someone's dead at a wedding. Everything's just gone to shit, and you just, everyone's just screaming. Monty's looking off to the side, screaming as my eyes are just. I'm just ruining. I'm not even gonna say what show that's from actually. So if you don't know, just pretend it wasn't about any show, because I've just ruined about like 4 seasons or so. Anyway, so my co-host here is Monty, who proudly bears the Riot brand and LCK, two of his favorite brands. He represents them. So how are you doing, Monty?
I'm not a representative of Riot Games.
I'm going to keep saying you are, though, just for the lols. Okay, so moving on from Riot, Monty, to our guest this week, the third person joining us. Now, you guys maybe used to think like, oh, wait a minute, I think I know him. Like, he's like a Spanish mid laner, and he was like really good in some past seasons, and he used to be good on Oriana. And then, now he's like left his team, and he's decided he's going to start his own brand and work up from the bottom, and he's going to qualify through Challenger. That's right, it's Ocelot. How you doing, Ocelot?
Wait. I'm pretty good, thanks.
Ah, okay.
Not going bad for me. Wait, no, not going bad for me at all, actually.
Okay.
He's now turned into a tycoon. Is this where your wealth has taken you? Was Fnatic really holding you back? Now it's all about mustaches and monocles?
Yeah, I don't know. I always wanted to have a monocle, and I couldn't have one because Fnatic didn't make one, so...
So we can look forward to the Origen branded monocles for fans? Great. Best merch ever.
That's what this one.
Okay, so our real guest obviously is xPeke, okay? So xPeke is the guest. But like I was referencing there, I noticed from your career path, you have really in many ways always been following the career path of your hero Ocelot, right? He led the way in Spain. You thought to yourself like, well, I want to become a mid laner now. And then you started playing Oriana as well. And then you quit LCS and you went to made your own team. And then just like the next part of his story, the really successful part, you're going to follow in the rest of his footsteps and like successfully qualify through Challenger and get back and prove to everyone that you are in fact one of the best in the world still, right? That was your inspiration, right?
Yeah, that's the inspiration and that's the plan as well. So hopefully it works.
It's always been my joke that for all good mid laners, when they're worried about the pick, like they think they're going to get counter picked or they're not sure what's going to happen in the pick ban phase, their fallback is always they just link like, shit, I'll just pick Oriana. So like you actually made an organization called Ori, it's like Origen.
No. It's not like that. I thought you were gonna be like all the mid laners just ask the jungler to pick their jungler. That's what we do actually. When we don't know what to pick, we tell the jungler to pick for us.
Is that what you do?
What do you want to play? Yeah, that's what do you want to play in jungle? I don't want to pick mid yet. That's what we actually do.
So really, we should blame Cyanide for that Royal Club series. You know, he just got counterpicked every time. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't even know like Oriana was a priority pick. I mean, fucking hell, Cyanide, come on, man, get it together, man. You blew it.
Yeah, it was his fault totally.
Okay, so shout outs to OG Cyanide, as he is now the artist formerly known as Fnatic Cyanide, now OG Cyanide. Okay, so let's just start there, xPeke, because no one's really talked to you yet. So far, all I've really seen from you about Origen is like a couple of videos, and like you did some sort of presentation. Was it actually in Spain where you did the presentation?
Yeah, it was in Madrid in an event there that I did it.
So now that all 5 members are known, you know, I mean, no one really knew before who that 5th member was, but now that the mystery has been solved, can you give us like a little bit of info? What really was your idea behind doing this? You know, like had you really always been thinking on the side, like, oh, I'd like to do that or something? It seems like as soon as you left Fnatic, you very quickly got this all up and running, you know. So was it something that was in the back of your mind as an option?
Yeah, that's something that, I don't know, people might be surprised or not, but it's something that has been around my mind for a long, long time. Even with the rest of the team, like Fnatic knew that I had this in mind for like a few years already, you know, so it's not like something new for them. And I think 1 or 2 years ago, I already told them that I wanted to do this, and they just in the end convinced me to stay. And I was really good with the team, and I was like, why would I leave something that I'm happy with? So I just didn't ever think about it seriously, you know. That was the only difference from them to now.
Monty, whenever I talk to LCS players, it's usually in Europe this happens. Some of them, after seasons, come to a scenario where multiple times I've talked to them and they've told me like, oh, like I have offers to go to like an okay LCS team, like maybe a middle or bottom table one, or I can like go and join a really good challenger team, you know. So for example, I mean, we can think of obvious examples in the past, like some of those NIP lineups, nearly all of those players could have been in LCS if they wanted on other teams, but they thought, no, we'll make like a really good challenger team and we'll get back into LCS. Forgiven, for example, could have played for a bad LCS team, but he wanted to wait and hold out and hope that a big LCS team offered him. And nearly every single time, I usually tell them like, yeah, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Like, I'd just take the safe option, you know, like play for the bad team, but like show that you're really good still, and then just get into like a top team and like, you know, problem solved. Because I always say like the risk is, what if like the challenger team goes badly, or what if it's even good, like some of those NIP teams were, but you just lose on the day, you know, like on the particular day you lose to one team who's the one that's in the promotion match or whatever it might be. As a general principle, what do you think about the concept of just giving up an LCS spot and trying to qualify back in?
I think it's just entirely case by case as to how much resources you have in order to make it work, because I think the advantage of what Riot does in terms of paying LCS teams is that you have that stable house, like gaming house environment, and the players are able to focus more on the game due to the resources that are given to the teams by Riot itself. So unless, like, if you have the quality of players where you're confident going back in, and you want to also use the resources to replicate that environment without Riot money, I think it's a fine risk to take. And also, I think there are going to be a lot more viewership. Like, there's going to be a lot more viewership, I think, in general for challenger games with all of these changes to the system. And it's not so much of a risk anymore, because all you have to do is be #1 challenger right now, and you automatically get into the LCS without even having to play a best of 5. So I think the risks get lower and lower as time goes on.
Is this something you were worried about when you were doing the plan, xPeke? I mean, it's to say you're worried doesn't mean you weren't going to do it or you think it's going to fail. But, you know, when you try something new, there's always concerns in the background, like, oh, what could happen? Is this something you thought about when you were making the team? Like, well, we will have to, like, re-qualify and we'll have to start and we'll have to get him in the summer. We can't play in the spring. Was this a concern at all?
Yeah, of course it was. It was like you said.
I mean, you've got Mithy on your team there, you know. He's tried a few times, and it doesn't always work out, you know.
But we got lucky. Like, he only had the problems in relegations, you know. So
okay.
Now we just have to try really, really hard to get that first spot, and we are safe from the curse there.
Okay.
But yeah, of course, I was super worried at first, because it doesn't matter how good you are. You can have one bad day or something, and then you're out. Doesn't matter. And there are some teams that can be really, really good that no one knew about or that they just created. So there is always risk, and it's always scary. So I was really, really worried at first. But like you said, I still didn't think that we didn't have a chance. I think we had a really high chance even before they announced that. But at least now we have a safety if we do really good in Challenger.
Because there's two historical precedents that I want to bring up for you, okay? First one is, you remember that guy Alex Ich? You probably don't. He was sort of like a Russian guy with kind of a goofy haircut. He used to be at the LANs, like a couple of years back, Maybe you remember him. No one's seen him in a long time, okay? But that guy actually, that old guy who used to like play Kazakhs and stuff, so that's how old it is, because that's not even a mid lane champion anymore. That guy, remember, he used to be like really good, and he used to be like an awesome clutch player, and then he thought to himself, like, you know what, I'll just leave this team that like I'm really famous for playing for, and like the synergy is really awesome, like sort of world famous synergy in this team. I'll just leave this team and I'll go and join a really good like challenger team, and we'll get back in, no problem. And yeah, it all worked out for him, and now he's known once again as one of the best players. Are you worried about that at all? What do you think? Were you worried about leaving Fnatic at all in that sense? Like, I mean, you've been in that same lineup for a long time,
Isn't he going to LCSNA now?
He's going to Challenger, as far as I know.
Oh, Challenger?
And he's the substitute for Team 8. So yeah, if you want to talk about a dark world, mate, you might be the substitute for like fucking Keen next year in like whatever that team is, Gravity, well, Curse Academy or whatever, yeah.
That doesn't sound too bad. No, well, of course it worries, but it's at some point it's not about worrying or not. It's like you want to stay doing something that you're not gonna say, how should I say it, the wording, but just you don't enjoy as much for 1 or 2 more years just to do it because you don't know what else to do, or rather do something that you really want to do and put all the effort into it. That's
okay,
how I see it more
so when you say that there,
like
put all the effort in for 1 or 2 years now, is it kind of like an option?
I meant if I was to stay in Fnatic, for example.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that's what I mean though. Is that kind of like part of the thinking behind this move then? As in like, regardless of how it goes, okay, regardless of what the results are, like maybe if you hadn't have done this move, maybe would you have considered just retiring, or would you just play like a split more and go, oh, maybe I'm done? Is this like an idea of how to keep going for more years in League of Legends?
No, just no. Even if I stay in Fnatic, I will have to keep playing because I still like the game right now, but like I said last year, I'm gonna play at least 1 more year because I don't know how it's gonna be at the end of the year, So yeah, if I stay in Fnatic, maybe I will have played 1 more year, and then if I don't get along with with all the changes, with the changing the team a bit, if I don't get along or I just not liking it that much, maybe I would have retired at some point. Yeah.
Okay, so I gave the Alex Ich example there. So don't get Alex Itched. But the other example, obviously, like I joked about before, is Ocelot. So I have a question. Maybe you don't know the answer to it yet, but we all saw what happened to Ocelot and his team, and some of the players on the team were good. Some of them went off, and like one of them went off to Giants and got into LCS. So obviously the players weren't bad. How do you stop happening to Origen what happened to Ocelot and Gamers 2? Like, is that in your mind at all? Do you have a set plan?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, I saw them as a good team. I actually thought they would be. I didn't know if they would qualify for LCS or not, but I saw them as a team that would at least be top on the challenger. But also at that time they had H2K and NIP, which was way harder for them, I think. So they had that inconvenience. But also I just didn't think all their players were as strong as people said. For example, like they had 1 or 2 players that you could say, okay, they are really good, but the rest were just fine players. And for me, I feel different when I see all the guys I play with. I really see them like being on an LCS team and doing super good, all of them. So
okay.
I see it way different for that.
Well, in that case, that sets us up to talk about some of the players in Origen then. So let me get Monty in here first. One of the things, like I mentioned to xPeke there, the reason why I brought up the Alex Ich example, obviously it's a totally different set of circumstances, but there's some truth to the idea that when you've been in the same core unit for a long time, I think what Alex Ich found when he went elsewhere was like, okay, maybe he found a player that was different, and maybe he found a player that was more motivated, all these things he was looking for. But sometimes you forget, like, when you're in that core and everything just works in terms of chemistry and you always get it together somehow, you also might have aspects that you won't be able to find in the new team, So xPeke and Fnatic. Give me like Monte's analysis. What was xPeke the player like, but within the confines of Fnatic? Give me the context.
I mean, I think that if you look at the Fnatic as a team that we knew last year, you're looking at kind of a more positional AD carry in Reckless, more of a playmaking engaged support in Yellow Star, strong solo lanes, and like a workhorse, more reactive style of jungler from Cyanide. And in that case, if we compare it to the new team, I mean, Mithy should be able to kind of fill that Yellow Star role, I think, in terms of engages that Yellow Star would often provide. I don't really know anything about Svanelen because I don't watch the Challenger scene, so I haven't seen him from his time on Prime. But as far as I can tell, just moving the solid solo laning over there from Fnatic, I think that right now, at the very least, this team is a bit of a downgrade off of the Fnatic of last season. Maybe an upgrade in the jungle with Amazing. But again, Svanelen, I just don't know enough about him. But is he probably going to be as good as Reckless? I think that's hard to say.
Wait. Let me just pull you back up there. Monte. I've got to keep you on the level here, mate. Did you really just say, is Svanelen, who I've never seen play before, going to be as good as Reckless, who I think is the best AD carry in Europe? I'd hard to say. You can never know on these things. Come on, man. Give me the real shit. Give me the analysis.
I'd say the odds are low. But even so, I think this team actually does. This is probably the best challenger team that has been assembled. I mean, a lot of people would point to NIP and say that, but just in terms of maintaining old synergies and old roles, I feel like this team is, in some ways, the play style trying to mirror like the Fnatic from last year.
Okay. I mean, the problem with that old NIP lineup is they had this guy who played support who was like a choker, and then he just kept losing them the tournament every time. Oh, right, shit, yeah. No, what did you think of Monty's analysis there, xPeke? Was there anything unusual in how he broke it down?
No, I guess he said it right, and it's true, especially since he cannot talk about the AD carry because he hasn't seen it much.
Except for that bullshit he said about the AD carry, that I pulled him up on. I agree.
Okay,
xPeke, real talk here. You didn't know who that AD carry was until you started setting this team up. Tell me the truth here. You might have played him like once in solo queue, and you were like, who even is that? Like, I'm going backdoor. Like, well, you didn't know who that fucking AD carry is, dude. Come on.
No, I don't remember the exact words, but Reckless say something along the lines that if we took this guy, we will be actually a really, really good team with him. Because he's the only guy he's in solo queue that impressed him.
See, the problem there is now we have to wait to find out how Reckless's time in Alliance is and if he actually secretly hates you. Because maybe that was his parting gesture. He was like, before I leave, xPeke, a glass of wine to your health, my friend. And then he'd like poisoned it already. Yeah, maybe that's how it was. I don't know. You never know how friendships can break apart. But anyway, so okay. When you got this player, did Mithy actually have any say in that guy being brought into the team? Because I get the sense with Mithy. I've said this before on the show, okay? Mithy's a weird guy in this sense. If you ever see him in some interviews and when he got banned, whenever he's in trouble, okay, he like does shit, he fails relegations or he gets banned, he becomes really humble. And he's like, oh, listen, I've got to learn my lesson, I'm not a good player right now. There's a lot of players better than me. But when things are going well, when he's dominating those scrims, suddenly he becomes the opposite. Suddenly he becomes like mega maniacal, He thinks he's like the European mad life. And so at that point, I get the feeling that he purposely wants AD carries who aren't great AD carries so that he can like mold them. He's sort of like the emperor and they're like his apprentice. And then he turns them into like Darth Maul, Next thing you know, they're like busting out dual bladed lightsabers and they're fucking badasses. Like, did he have any say in this guy being brought into the team? Did you just tell him this is who the AD carry is going to be?
No, he did have a say, of course, because I would want his opinion more than anyone else, and it was good to know it. So it was like 50-50, let's say, because he pretty much I will agree with him on anything as long as I saw it being reasonable, So when he wrote this guy's name at first, I didn't really know it from more than solo queue, and then it was when Reckless as well said that this guy was really good. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna at least start checking the guy. And when I was spectating him, I was seeing everything. I was kind of impressed. So it was not just any of the theories you have.
Oh, okay. Well, those were very serious theories, I hope you give them real consideration.
Yeah.
They might be real, much like the reckless one. Anyway, so here's another question then. When Monty was describing the rest of the team, I noticed he suspiciously didn't mention anything about the top laner, who he's a big fan of, by the way. Monty loves his work ethic, his outlook on life, his ability to adapt to the meta. Monty loves the guy. But in terms of the jungler, though, before we get to the top laner, I noticed Monty, when he talked about the jungler, again, he kind of skipped. It's interesting. Monty's suddenly become so political now. When he was talking about Cyanide, he said about how there's this workhorse jungler who, was willing to do anything for the team. And then when he talked about the rest of the team, he came to, the new jungler. And instead of saying, who it was and what he was doing, he just said, and so I think actually, in terms of, style and role, they'll be quite similar to before. xPeke is Amazing going to be a workhorse, selfless jungler who just plays, support chat. He's going to just play Jarvan, just Aatrox, just feed his lanes. He's not going to be demanding. He's not going to demand that he gets certain ganks. Same sort of guy, right? Just like Cyanide.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. It's different because people think they are completely extreme, extreme cases.
Really? Why would they do that though?
No, but of course, because you see Cyanide ganking or helping lanes, and you think it's because that's his style. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's that we ask him maybe too much. And same for Amazing. From what I have played with him, if you need a gank, you tell him, and he will. That's true. The difference with Amazing is sometimes he will decide if he actually should put the effort on that or if he should go to other lane because he sees more possibilities. But I don't see that as a bad thing at all. It's just different, of course, because he's not gonna come to the lane and tax your lane. He tries to gank and he's like, oh, I didn't get a kill. Now I'm gonna tax 2 waves here. Now he doesn't do that. But,
well, I think it's actually.
But it's true. He's more secure on his play when he's like, no, I'm gonna try to get a kill here because I can get it, and then he's like, fuck the rest. I'm gonna do what I had in mind. That's true.
Okay.
I think it is crucial, though, that at least for the moment and your early success, that not much change, because the consistent strength of Fnatic has been the fact that you and Soaz worked so well together when you play the map and when you guys roam together, and it has been about those a lot of map movement from the solo lanes, and to have that go away would be, I think, difficult for you guys at first. Or to change the style over much.
Yeah, well, the style hasn't changed much. It's just because it's not a big difference actually. Amazing does a lot of calls and stuff, so it's really good. But when it comes to everything else, he's not gonna stop so as for me from going to get some farming on side lane or to try to do pickups or something. It's just. When it comes to that, it's exactly the same. It was we do what we want in the map. It's just he's different when it comes to controlling the lanes and invading the enemy jungle. He's just like the one leading it. He's like making sure everyone follows him and saying where we have to go. That's the only thing he does. It's nothing else on that.
In terms of overall style, though, do you have a style in mind? Are you just gonna play and then just whatever happens? When you were putting the team together, were you thinking of certain types of players you wanted? What was it like?
Not really actually. I don't know. Was not really thinking into okay, we're gonna have this playstyle, so I want players that play like this. It was mostly about I would like players that are. Regardless of the playstyle they have, they are good at it and they can work, because you can have an AD carry that is really aggressive or passive. It doesn't matter. If it works, then you can think later. Obviously, it's better to have a plan, but I don't think I was either. I don't think I was able to think what kind of style we were gonna have before choosing the players anyway. So
okay, I mean,
I
don't
look
need
at players that I thought they were good.
I mean, when it comes to Amazing, I don't need to ask, how you heard of it, because obviously you'd heard of him. He's playing in America, playing in TSM, and then you spoke to him and you said hey, I followed you at TSM. I saw when you made quarterfinals of Worlds, and he was like, whoa, wait a minute, quarterfinal. I almost went to the final, right? TSM should have been in the final, and he was like, no, you lost in the quarterfinals. Yeah, but if we hadn't have lost SK, then we'd have beaten Star and Royal Club and then we'd have beaten Najim. That was how the conversation went, right? Something like that. By the way, on this show, we're huge fans of Amazing. I think on Elise and Lee Sin, he's really good.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
What,
I actually don't think so.
do you prefer
I think
which do you prefer, his Nunu play or his Kazakhs play or his Javan play? Which one of those are your favorites?
not the Nunu either. But with Jarvan is fine.
Okay.
But I don't know, like the Elise, I'm actually not a big fan of her, especially right now because he's not seen so much. But I don't really mind if people were to ban Lee Sin and Elise.
Oh, really?
I
Well,
prefer
that's never gone wrong in the past. Don't worry. No one's ever said anything like that. It's never been any problems like that. By the way, has he been practicing his pocket pick volley there? I was just wondering.
Oh, shit, don't say that here, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad.
Can you put that up later?
Yeah, we'll scrub that from the VOD there. Yeah.
You're in the whole plan for the Challenger series. We had that plan for these 2 months planning that.
Okay, so the one member Monty
He's been
didn't
training
mention.
since I was 1.
I have to bring Monty in first again. So the one member you kind of skipped over there, Monty, is my boy, one of my favorite players. You know, I think he's a great player. I love the way I love the way squares like you are like, hey man, the rules of societies. You've got to.
Sorry, I know you like me, but you don't have to talk.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, not yeah. Okay, I won't talk about you so much. I'll move on to Soaz now. You know, like, sure, I should leave you. The best things should be left to last. You're right. So anyway, one of my favorite players is a guy where he sees sort of like a square, sort of stuck in the mud '60s guy with his short sleeve shirt and his black tie on, working for IBM like Monty. And Monty's like, God damn it, there's rules in society and you got to follow those rules. And listen, mister, you buck your ideas up and you start playing tanks and you come into those team fights and you zone, buddy. You zone. You don't do damage. You build your frozen heart, then you build. Like, that's what Monty's like. And so Soaz comes in there like this foppish French cavalier with a frilly shirt on and a kind of devil-may-care attitude, like D'Artagnan himself reinvigorated, and he says like, excuse me, monsieur, like, and then he just swings in there on a rope and he saves the whole day, or it goes totally to shit. One of the two, but whichever it is, I love either way. So Monty, what do you think about Soaz, you know?
No, I love Soaz as a player.
May I just remind you, Monty, he's a 3-time LCS champion, just in case you forgot that. Continue.
Look, I love him as a player. I think his champion pool diversity is extraordinary. I just think that occasionally he does suboptimal things just because he gets bored and doesn't feel like playing the meta. That's it. I think he would agree with me. Like,
you mean like
I think that
when he uses mind games on the opponent, you know, like people underestimate mind games. Fans naively think, you know, you look at Champ Select and you just think, oh, they wanted that champion or they didn't. But what Soaz will do is he'll sort of get so into the mind of the enemy that he'll be like, you know what, Renekton right now is a priority pick, but you don't even have to ban him. And you know what? Think about this. The last thing they'd expect me to do is not pick him. So then now they don't even have to ban it, and I won't pick him. Think about how, and then everyone in the team's like, wouldn't that be bad? They'd be like, no, because then if I was to beat them on Yorick, imagine how much more demoralized they'd be. Yeah, and then everyone's like, oh, okay, how would that work exactly though? Probably just build Blade the Ruin King first, I think. Like, oh, okay, then yep, see you. So, and then the timer at that point is finished counting down to 0, and the game just starts. It's something like that, right?
I think, I think there's some magic to Soaz, man. Like, that's the thing about him. Is like, I love that attitude that he has. Even though if you try and have a logical debate with him, like we did on this show, there aren't really reasons behind what he does. It's just he's very intuitive as a player, and then but he pulls it off a lot of the time. So he pulls it off when it counts too, except at All Stars that didn't go so well.
And Worlds. But aside from those two.
Worlds this last year, he did. I mean, obviously, Fnatic did very well in Season 3.
It's true. If we go back to 2013, Soaz was knocking out of the park every time. I agree. Okay. So, xPeke, why did you bring this Soaz guy into the team? I heard like he was only good in like 2012 or something, and he's like he doesn't even know how to play any champions now. He keeps picking Lulu. So, like, what made you pick up this young guy from France who's like, you know, rising star in the scene?
Oh, he's been practicing a lot of champions now. Ezreal, Lucian,
Shen, Yorick,
Shen as well. Yeah, Yorick,
Renekton. He's actually come up with a new theory. You know, no one's heard it, but the reason why he's practicing Renekton, he told me, is because no one will expect it because everyone knows that Lee Sin outscales Renekton in the late game. You didn't.
Oh,
You didn't know that?
I don't even know that. That's
Okay.
he's planning that ahead. I didn't even.
That's
know
a secret he once revealed on this show. He told us in conversation with Monty that Lee Skin actually outscales Renekton in the late game.
Oh, but that was like 2 years ago, no? Or is it?
No.
No, this was like a few months ago.
Yeah,
So
he has very interesting opinions.
Maybe Soaz
we
is sort
actually
of like the
never- we never
Mayans.
played Lee, actually.
He thinks time is cyclical, you know. So he thinks that like the season 1 meta is going to come back in now. Dude, when I was looking through the old videos to make that video about him, I saw him playing fucking Anivia and roll swapping into mid to go against like Big for LP or something. So I was like, he really does. Monty, you have to realize he doesn't even come from the same world you're thinking of. You're thinking of like Koreans and stuff. Soaz comes from like Narnia, and you have to give him time to embrace our world. You know, it's a different world now. It's a harsh, cold world of super tanks and hyper efficiency and top lane builds. You know. Soaz was good sometimes in season 4, Monty. Sometimes he picked it up. Sometimes he had some good wins.
Yeah, it's true. He's always had good wins. I mean, he can be a very clutch player.
Yeah, but I think some of the games he might even have a pick you think normal was due to our fault as well. Like there were some games I remember that I don't know that I played like shit and people would just blame it on the picks or something, you know, or someone else did bad and they would be like, oh, they lost because of the picks, and I was like, even with good picks, we would have lost that game, you know. So.
You know, if I ever do
sometimes
an interview with any European person, they always tell the same fucking story. Like, oh, it's all democratic in our team. We all just say like, hey, I'd like to do this. And then the other person says, I'd like to do that. And then we all just do what the group agrees upon. In Fnatic, was there some kind of order in pick ban? Like, was someone in charge overall of making the final decision on what was done?
No, it was as well like, well, the majority, and it's true. Sometimes we would just not like something, you know, like I would want to play something, he would want to play something, or someone would want to play something, and we will not. Someone would not like it, and then we will not do it, you know. Most of the time, those kind of picks were like, if someone doesn't like it, then we don't do it. So when you actually saw everything we picked, it's because everyone wanted to have it, or agreed on it at least. So.
When I did this video the other day about Soaz's career, kind of like assessing the up and the down and what different nuances I saw, one thing I tried to highlight as a really key point is that when you think of Soaz, you have to think of Soaz and xPeke. Like, they're the combo, you know, they're the two, because obviously the shared champion pool, like playing double teleport, sometimes even lane swapping. Like, I saw this one game, which was when you won that dream hack, where you actually played Jack's top lane and Soaz played Lee Sin mid lane against Froggen. So, like, not many teams can do that, you know. That's like in fact, Monty, I'll bring you in on this. That's like a level of flex pick and swapping that like no team has that luxury, right?
Well, and it depends too. I mean, it's definitely viable strategically to do things like that, especially if you're going against a team that adapts poorly in game, because you could cause people to tilt and like flip out and not know how to deal with that. Even if it's suboptimal, you basically give them something they haven't practiced against, and you can really get into their heads. And you know, it can be really, really good to do things like that at times. And it's definitely worked out for Fnatic previously.
Well, plus, Monty, you said that even if it's suboptimal, you know, like the surprise factor can help. Because here's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's not going to fuck with xPeke's game. If he's top lane and his mid laner actually ends up being quite suboptimal and doing badly against another good mid lane, like, he actually trained like that for a year. It's sort of like he trained with the Shushei training weights on. So he knows how to play like that all day long. Listen, man, he doesn't matter if the mid lane goes out of 5. His top lane's on form. Do you actually still play top lane champions at all, xPeke? Do you play top lane in solo queue, etc.?
Yeah, I only like to play Maokai and Malphite, actually.
Really? I think you should actually be the fucking top laner then. Right, let's swap it over. Soaz can come mid, pick anything he wants.
Maybe you'll see that again. It will be the rise.
You're gonna tease me.
But, no, but I don't know. I like to play Maokai a lot. I don't know. I find it funny that you can just be unkillable and kill everyone. It's kind of cool. A cool thing that you just get tanky, and no one can do anything to you.
Just too tanky, man.
That was, too tanky. Even if they hit the stuff. But that was other times when we did the swapping again, because it was way easier to know. Like, now it's completely different. The roles have you have to do completely different things. I couldn't play top lane like before, because junglers wouldn't gank you the same way. they wouldn't put the same emphasis. And same for you roaming to the mid lane. I don't think I will know how to do those things right now if I didn't play a shitload of games. So I don't think that would be viable unless we practice it at 50 or games or something like that first.
Okay.
But besides that, what I really like though is having champs that we can both play. That's super good for sure. Because it's really good if we can. If I'm not afraid of picking a champion, because I know even if he pick like a counter, we can worst case put it top or the same way for him. Then it's really really good because we can first pick a champion that we don't want them to have, and then we take it away from them and we put it in a good lane for us.
When you said that there, I think you actually, you know, when sometimes there's like a way someone wants to say something to politically sound right, but sometimes they slip up and first of all they say what they were really thinking. When you said that, like sometimes we can pick something, and you know, if it goes to shit, like we just put that top lane. Like that's another thing, xPeke. You know, some of those games where Soaz got stuck playing some shit. Some of them looked, listen, just from the outsider, a layman who knows nothing about the game. Sometimes it looked like you just picked like Lulu and then you were going to play it initially, but then they picked something else and you were like, so as you're playing Lulu top now. And then everyone who's a fan watched you lose the game and was like, that fucking Soaz, he's an idiot. He always picks it. The arrogance of picking the Lulu top. Did anything like that ever happen? Oh, I see. He's tried to obscure his face here to maintain his composure. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He put his disguise on, his Nick Allen disguise there.
That is the Nick Allen disguise. Holy shit.
It actually does look like that.
What do you think of this theory? Is there anything to it?
It never happened as well because
I'm
a nice guy, you know, and I say because if I actually go with a pick that I want to play and it doesn't work, then I say if it's gonna fuck you more than it will fuck me, then we're not gonna do that, you know. So it never happened like that. Normally when it happened, that was the case because we thought it was better. Something like that happening might have happened. At least I don't remember any games we doing that. But let's say I pick that and then the other guy picks something that I can completely counter, that I will destroy him, you know. Then we might have done it, but I don't remember the games right now, so I cannot be sure about it.
What do you think as a general principle, Monty, on the concept of flex picks? I know you like the concept, you know, you like it when teams do it.
I love it.
Is it like dangerous to do though? In what circumstances should you attempt this approach? Because obviously not every team can do it.
Well, the thing about it's true, and it's the thing about flex picks is that they do provide you oftentimes with preferable lane matchups. The danger is that if you're flexing champions that are not normally played at those positions or are pretty suboptimal, you could basically what can happen in those situations is that if you start losing lane early, then you can basically have no effect on the game. A lot of the champions that we see are in the meta currently because they can fall slightly behind perhaps and still be relevant in the game, whereas like a laning Lee Sin, if you start losing with that champion, you're doing nothing basically for the entire game. There's no chance to come back with that. So there are situations where that can kind of go poorly. So you have to be careful about which champions you actually use in that regard. But the advantage is that you could disguise your entire draft and have that maneuverability in terms of your strategy to give players like that advantage in lane most of the time, while still maintaining an overall strong team composition. So, I mean, I think that they're enormously important, and in fact, right now, flex picks are probably the most important that they've ever been in the meta because there are so many different viable options. So drafts have become this is probably the most strategic drafting phase in competitive history in League of Legends at the moment.
What do you think, xPeke? Is it a different meta overall?
I kind of agree. I think there are a lot of picks, like you said, right now that you can just first pick, and if it doesn't work in one lane, it's gonna work in the other one because, like you said, it doesn't. Even if it's behind in farm because you lane swap or something, it's gonna still be fine.
Can you give us some examples? So, like an obvious one right now is Lissandra. What else would be in that category?
Lulu can be played in 3 positions right now.
Soaz is most played champion in LCS history, by the way, Monty.
Which one is it?
Lulu. He has 11 wins on it. Yeah.
Really?
I imagine a lot of those wins were earlier on, but okay, let's ignore that. Most wins. Yeah.
No, I actually didn't know the state. That's just funny for me.
Jace.
Here's the thing,
Jace as well.
Historically,
Soaz's
most picked and played champions is Lulu, I think second was Elise. So yeah, that's still in the meta. That's great. Yeah, we've still got Elise there.
At least second.
I think Shen was his third one, so you can't even pick that in the game anymore. So that's good. Two of his top three already gone there, and then we're down to like the other two was like Shyvana and something else that I don't even remember. So anyway, yeah, you've still got the Source is still good though. You know, it's some of those champions you can still play. Yeah, keep going. What were you saying?
Oh, he used to play Zed as well.
Zed, he played it like a few times, and he was actually very good on it. Yeah. But again, I imagine maybe that was picked, and sometimes someone didn't want to play it in mid lane, and it just magically had to go to the top lane. You know.
Actually, the funny part is that was during Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, he
would
owned
play and
on
I
it.
wouldn't play because I was really I remember because I was really bad with it at that time. It was like I played it a lot. Then for some reason I don't remember if he got nerfed or if he was banned every game so much that I stopped practicing it completely because he was banned every scream, every everything, and I would never play him. And suddenly, after 1 or 2 months of not playing him, I was so bad at him that that we decided that it was not worth to practice it and just ban it every game that we didn't have first pick. And that's how it happened. I think it just came to the situation where the enemy team didn't ban it when we had first pick, and we picked it like 1 or 2 games, like you said. And that was the only reason, because every other game he was banned and people banned it against me because they had no idea if I played it or not.
Monty, this is going to sound like a weird sort of beginner's question for you, but could you explain to me, Monty, you know that subreddit, explain it like I'm 5? It's going to be like that, okay? Explain it like I'm bronze. Why does a team need a tank? And if a team needs a tank, why would the tank need to be in the top lane?
Well, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the top lane. It can be in the jungle as well. So the thing about having a tank in the top lane, or something with, generally speaking, some degree of escapability or movement in the top lane, is that the reason why you play a lot of these mages in the mid lane is because it's a shorter lane and because they do have mid game bursts. So the thing about generally speaking, when we talk about why the roles in League of Legends, because you can't have this discussion without talking about why each role is the way it is. So AD carry, generally speaking, are an item-dependent role, okay? So you have the supports in that lane because they are vulnerable early because they don't have many stats by themselves, and also the support is there to ensure that they can get a lot of farm so they can start getting those items. So in that way, you're trying to basically compensate for a power trough in the early game by having a support in that lane, because levels are not as important, because AD carry abilities, generally speaking, don't scale so hard off of levels. They scale off of the itemization, right, and the items you need for auto attacking. Okay, well, let's take that and look at the mid lane. Well, mid lane isn't like that. Most mid laners scale better off of levels than items, and also because it's a shorter lane, so you can get away with less mobility because it's easier to avoid ganks. Sure, you have more vision, but you also have a jungler that's playing around the mid lane and helping you ward, but it's easier to get back to your own turret, and critically, you can also get to all of the other lanes to roam because, like I said, you're more dependent on your items, so you need your ability levels, so you need the solo experience in order to level up. So in the top lane, now you don't necessarily need a tank, but the thing about it is that junglers are oftentimes too poor to buy all of these tanky items, and you need somebody in the front line, especially right now with all of the movement abilities, because Riot keeps releasing more and more and more champions with heavy movement, items like Talisman of Ascension and Righteous Glory, and these items that help you engage very heavily. And so if you get caught out by crowd control and you don't have a tank to stand and block it in the front line, you're running a very squishy composition, you can immediately, just like that, have a 5v4, right? The tank needs to be there to absorb cooldowns and team fights and to threaten the back line so that they can't just blow somebody up immediately. Like I said, this can work, and we do see occasionally teams play very squishy compositions, but a great example is last night when we saw the Jin Air versus GE Tigers game 3, where Jin Air decided not to run a tank, in any capacity whatsoever, and they just got owned. So you really need something in that front line. And so also having the longer lane with the tank, because they tend to be a little more defensive, makes it so that they're less likely to die to ganks in a long lane situation. So they're basically that's kind of the reasoning behind why these positions in League of Legends exist.
Okay, so you say all of that, and you say, like, for example, okay, the jungler can be the tank, but like you're saying, he's only ever really going to be like a hybrid tank. Like, he can't afford the same amount of items as the top laner would, playing in the solo lane with all the farm, etc. So if, in general...
And also will be lower level, because
So-
you're getting
yeah.
solo lane experience in top, and these big tanks, they do have those stat increases as levels go on.
So if in general, that's why most people were playing with tanks and why, especially early in Season 4, it was a heavy tank era. Certain teams only rotated Trundle, Dr. Mundo, Renekton, Shyvana. Those are the only champions they played, So explain this to me. How can a team win games and reach both LCS finals using a tank like a third of the time? How would that even happen?
Okay, well, we have to look at the way that the Riot has changed the game, too. So if we're talking about, like... Dragon and Baron became much more important in grouping for these team fights, especially now. And when you have a team fight meta, you pretty much have to have a tank. The thing is that Fnatic has been successful. They found workarounds. One of those workarounds was using double teleport so they could set up picks. Because when I think about Fnatic, I don't necessarily usually think about them as a team fighting team. I think about them as a split pushing or a pick team. And those, first off, split pushing is not very effective right now. We'll see how effective it is in 5.1 with some of these item changes, and I still think that there's room to grow strategically, especially in terms of using Elixir of Ruin strategically, because I actually think that's a very good item that is underused right now. Previously, in previous metas, it was possible to kind of use the double teleport to abuse mobility so that they could basically have a man up in a team fight and instantly be there for a gank or a skirmish or a 5v4, something like that, so that you're not so reliant on that full 5v5 team fight. But I do think that this new Origen roster is going to have to play with a little bit more durability, either from Amazing or from SOAS, in order to compete with this like heavy Dragon fight, Baron fight, 5v5 meta that's going on right now.
Okay, so xPeke, I know there was like, I know you kind of zoned out there. There was a lot of like waffle about like rotations and like levels. Listen, neither of us are listening. We were just waiting for Monty's. We were just waiting for Monty's lips to stop moving. Right? Okay, but aside from all that,
rotations at all.
Okay, you were listening. Okay, but let me ask you the same question then. So how was Fnatic able to win games in Season 4, sometimes without a tank, sometimes playing AP top players? Like, how did you manage to make it work as a team? Do you know?
I just don't think it was always needed to have a tank either. Sometimes it was enough to have it in the jungle. Sometimes I agree that a tank could be better, but at the same time, if we have a full peeling comp, it's not always the best. But in some situations, it can work. When the other way the other team can win is by team fighting, like completely going in and fighting. If we don't do that, then we can make a setup. If we think that can work, we can make a setup. Like we did sometimes, where we would play LeBlanc mid and we would play her as a peel champ, where I would just stay behind and doing change all the time to their tanks, and we will just have. It's more of a setup where we are all kiting all the time, which is not the best. Sometimes it can go really wrong, but it can go really good as well if you play it properly. So we just saw that if we were able to, like you said before, in our minds we were thinking if we could play this perfectly, I think there is no way we would lose.
No, that Monty, I know,
and that's obviously not a good way of thinking.
Listen,
but
I know that Monty also loves the school of if you play it outright. That's like the world that he wants to live in as a coach. So Monty, I know that you probably, you're stuck in your square box of the Korean meta, Monty. You probably don't know a lot about peel support LeBlanc mid lane. So can you give me some thoughts on this, some feedback?
Okay, no, I think he's absolutely right. I think that if you do play these high mobility kite compositions optimally, that they are extraordinarily strong. The problem is actually doing that, and just having a tank and trying to 5v5 is a much more reliable and safe way to win the game, where I mean, I will agree, but the thing is that if one thing goes wrong with one of those like kite comps, then the entire game is lost.
Yeah, that's the thing. As soon as you lose one fight because you fucked up, the game is over. That's the thing. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. You just do one mistake, one fight. This guy dies. They take a a Drake, push a turret, and then you're like behind 3k and the game is over. That's what happened a few games, and then we learned. But
Sort of.
yeah, we tried it. The thing is, also, some people might think we didn't practice it, but we practiced it many times. And from scrims to real games is a lot different. I mean, in scrims, it might have worked 90% of the times. So we were like, okay, this is working a lot. We're not just gonna give up because we lost 1 or 2 games. So we will try a few more games, a few more games. But I don't think all the times we didn't have the right picks. And as well, we did pick tanks many times as well. When we didn't play it on the top lane, we would play it on the jungle, like you said, even if it was not always the optimal.
Okay, so I don't want to make this entire show won't just be about Origin, but I have one more topic I want to touch on here, which is that I saw these pictures online. Okay, like you've moved into this like nice house in Spain, and everyone's going to live there, and it all looked really nice inside, like really nice setup. So there was this reputation, which I'm sure is just nonsense, xPeke. You know it's not true. That like some of the Fnatic members, like this like Spanish guy and then this French guy, I think they used to like not practice that much, or they just wouldn't practice certain champions, and then they'd just decide like 2 days before, like, I think I'll just play that champion in the next LCS game. So that was like this evil reputation that some horrible person, maybe Reckless when he left, I don't know, spread around the community, you know, this lie. And they suggested as if sort of like these players wanted to do their own thing, you know. They didn't want to be like hampered down by like practice all the time. You know, maybe the organization was kind of like wanting them to practice more. So everything's going to be fine now though, because you've all moved into a really nice mansion where you have no one overseeing everything and you're all in charge of your own schedule. So you're all going to be practicing a lot and it's going to be really structured, and this is how the plan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? Have you ever heard that rumor? Did it ever get around the Fnatic house?
Yeah, I heard a rumor, which is completely wrong, I think, though,
Okay.
because people again exaggerate way too much. The fact that
I mean, I heard this horrible rumor that like Kale was really OP in mid, and then this Spanish guy was just like, no, I don't want to play it, and then last minute he just started playing out of nowhere.
I did play her, but the thing is, I used to admit it openly to my team. I'm really bad at this champion. I played it many times. It didn't work out. I suck at it. So I can either keep playing it. Don't blame me if I suck at it until I get better, or we give it up and ban it, or try to find a way to play it against that. So
okay, so give me the insight
But
on this theory then, because it's obviously wrong.
Yeah,
So
no.
give me your side.
yeah, no, I think we just had one free day a week, and the rest of the days we were not going out and fighting. That's it. That's how it was. It was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday was our free day. And
Was
Friday
Fnatic
night.
a really diligent team, like practicing a lot, practicing picks for the week coming up, really spamming them in solo queue, in scrims?
I
I
actually
corrected
think so.
that there.
Maybe...
Sorry, I almost suggested that you guys played solo queue. I meant in scrims. You know, in the scrim.
Yeah. I was doubting myself as well. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so
You're like
what?
that's like
And
some
then
shit
I
from
was like,
2012 or something. Isn't it? Yeah. What was that?
Dominions is the new thing now. There's no
Okay, yeah.
practice. It's really good for the mechanics, fighting all the time. It's fast, fun. But yeah, we were practicing. Maybe there were some weeks during spring split that maybe we were not preparing picks as much. But I think during the whole summer split, especially when we had Arnie, we were preparing for the picks every Monday or Sunday. Like we will be seeing who we gonna play, who were we gonna play, what we wanted to practice, and just practice those champions. We were like never getting out of the line. We would practice 2-3 champions that we thought were good, and if something came up, we will maybe try it. But it was like that. Like we were like, we're gonna play this team comp, and this team comp, and just practice those 2 or 3. That's how we did the whole summer split. I think pretty much.
So as a general concept, in terms of practicing, like the thing I alluded to there, like in this new team now, will you have like a coach? Will you have someone who sets the schedule and tells you these are the hours we practice and you have to do this much? Do you guys decide it for yourself? Does xPeke decide it? Is he the boss?
Yeah, I decide everything.
But see,
No, it's gonna be with a coach, and hopefully everyone is committed to do that, and it's not gonna be like wake up, play, and go sleep playing, but it's gonna be at least playing a minimum of like what we want to do pretty much the same as in LCS, but maybe having
2 to 3 hours.
one
2 to 3 hours.
3 hours.
Watch a few episodes of Sherlock. Get ready for the club. You know.
With a food break in between because you don't
Yeah,
want to
obviously,
exhaust
yeah.
the players too much,
First off, I want to point out that actually, when you're talking about your summer split, remember that this was the only split of LCS you weren't winning. So maybe you should actually go back to the partying, like hard drinking fanatic lifestyle, which caused you to win 3 seasons. But the other thing I want to say is like, this is an issue with player owner teams, right? Because like you're saying you're going to bring in a coach and try and adhere to a schedule and stuff like that, but he is supposed to be the boss of you, but you are actually paying him. You understand? Like there's that weird conflict there where
Monty, that would never cause any sort of problems, like that's the ideal setup is for the player coach
it would never cause any problems.
I don't see that being a problem.
What's prompting you to think that way?
Of course, yeah, you get what you want. Of course it's not.
As long as he agrees with me, it's not a problem. No, kidding. It's
Monty, there's no problem having a boss if your boss is awesome,
yeah, that's true. We can go drinking together. I don't know what's wrong with that.
No, that's the thing. There'll be a lot of drinking with the boss, I imagine. He'll be giving you days off. Oh, you're such a good boss. I'm telling you. My old boss wasn't like this.
You get your beer money this week, coach.
See, Monty has a point there when he was talking about the old days of LCS. This is how I used to imagine Fnatic was okay. I imagine like xPeke wakes up, he looks around, like checks for his surroundings. Okay, I'm in the Fnatic house. Didn't score last night. Okay, weird. Gets up, just yawns, walks into the kitchen. He's just got only wearing his boxer shorts. An old pair with like a little hole, maybe a little bit peeking out there, just to give people a taste, but not the whole thing.
You're so accurate right now.
So he walks into the kitchen, and Cyanide's there, and he's frying some eggs up. He's frying it. Oh, is this breakfast? Cool, yeah, man. Oh, great night last night. And he goes, "What time when should we start practice tomorrow?" And Cyanide's like, "Practice? What do you mean?" He's like, well, we have to, we're gonna listen, man. We're professional gamers. Like, I know we party a lot, we play hard, but we also work hard. He's like, no, Peke, we won LCS last weekend, and then Peke's like, lol, I don't even remember any of that, dude. Like, that's how close to the truth.
This reminds me of last year, the first LCS season, actually.
Okay.
It was pretty much exactly like you were describing it. The first split, the spring split.
Yeah.
The first one, it was pretty much like that. Like, we just wake up. And I would be like, when are we practicing today? And he would be like, oh, I don't know. Did someone look for scrims? I don't know. I'm just going to stream. And that's it. And that's how the first split was pretty much. But it worked out better, like Monty said. Maybe we should go back to that. But then we got more professional, started to have schedules and set screens for the whole week. But yeah, those were fun times as well. I don't know.
See, I've done this before, xPeke. I always like to bring really accomplished European players on, because I know that on one level, because of their accomplishments, Monty really respects them. Like, wow, these players have accomplished a lot. Like, I'm sure they have their own unique style. And then he has to find out each time that, like, they don't communicate, that they do whatever the fuck they want. People just pick anything they want. Just because it's like I'm just destroying all of his closely held beliefs in what makes winning teams in League of Legends. What do you think, Monty, when you hear this?
I feel appalled. You know about that. It makes me question my own existence and everything that I know.
Is that it?
That's it.
I was expecting more as well.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more. Me and you feel like CLG right now, xPeke. He came in with the big highfalutin talk about rotations and stuff, and in the end, he just sort of told us to play the game ourselves. In fact, I believe that was Monty's final words before the playoffs. He was like, fuck it, just do it yourself. And Doublelift was like, well, I will then. And then Doublelift said, by the way, you're not my father, and then stormed out of the room. But it's okay because they won the series. So, okay, xPeke, this whole show, believe it or not, isn't just an ambush to get you to answer really awkward questions about Origin. That was just the warm-up, okay? Now I want to ask you really awkward questions about Europe and your friends who you hold dear in other teams. So, coming into this season of LCS, which you aren't going to play in, so you can talk about these teams, just from what you know of the lineups, maybe you've scrimmed some of them, maybe you know some of the players, who do you think is going to be the strongest teams? Who are the ones who are jumping out to you?
Only problem with this is we haven't scrimmed all of them, But if I had to do, like for example, we have an Scream. I can tell you we have an Scream Alliance, Fnatic.
Elements. It's called Elements.
We have an Scream.
Do you know which?
Elements?
Let me just ask you a question. Do you know which element Reckless represents?
Is it the steel or earth? I don't know. Which one? Was it something like
I can't
that?
remember
Steel,
myself
right?
actually. I didn't know that one.
Because there were five.
It was a shit
There were
concept,
five.
so yeah, I don't
So I
remember.
assume the fifth one was the steel, maybe, no? Or
I'm not sure. I think he was like
which one was
Heart
the
or something, like out of Captain Planet.
any one of you know which one was the fifth element of their team, by the way?
Are you asking if Reckless is the fifth element? If he was a genetically created being who's here to save the universe, if someone can just help him?
There are four elements, so I'm asking which one is the fifth one for them.
I don't know. What was the fifth one, Monty? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Google
I
it.
basically
Put in elements and put in Reckless.
I read that intro paragraph, and then I immediately deleted it from my
Masterpiece.
brain because I
Masterpiece.
never wanted to have read it in the first place. It was a great mistake, it was a great mistake to read that.
Maybe the fifth element was just like, maybe that's why they called it Elements, the team, because much like when Elements, the player, played in CLG, the fifth component in the makeup was actually unnecessary and irrelevant to the outcome of the match. If the other four are good enough, it doesn't matter who the fifth is. But that's the message of Elements. Okay? That's what Froggen's telling us now in his new team. He's like, Reckless, you were a star player. In this team, I'm the star player. You're just the AD carry. He's like, oh, okay, boss. So, okay, Elements, you haven't practiced that team. Who else? Who have you practiced? Who do you have a sense for? Rockat?
Well, yeah, Rocket we have practiced them. How would I compare them to the old team to say? Like they are pretty good. I think they are really, really good. Overpower still needs maybe some adapting to the top lane. When it comes to he's good, but when it comes like what I said before, if I went to top lane right now, I might be good some games, but some games I would not really know my limits or what I should do, and I think that's what they have to improve on. But besides that, they are a really, really good team, and those were just a scream. So probably when they are actually playing LCS, I see them doing really, really good.
SK Gaming?
Then SK Gaming, haven't played them either, so I cannot tell at all. But I have no idea about this team. It's gonna be up to how good Forgiven does this season, because he used to be really good, and I haven't seen him at all. I still believe he's really, really good, but I don't know as a team how he's gonna play there. What is the name of the middle? Is it still What the Fox, or did he change it?
Just called Fox now.
It's
It's
called
just
Fox now.
Okay, because he changed the name, but I was not sure. So Fox.
I mean, you should
Like,
really sue him over that, because there's only one Fox in the European mid lane, right, mate? Hey?
Yeah, but
Okay, keep going.
talking about him, I don't know how he's doing as a team. Before, when I played versus him long time ago, 1 year ago or something, for me he was not that impressive or a big of a threat. But it's 1 year from now, so probably he has improved, especially when they have picked him. So it's gonna be as well, depending how much he improved and he played for now, and the rest of the players are gonna be like before. If they keep the strategy, there's more than the strategy, the control they had over everything, that they will never give up anything for free even when they were losing. If they keep that style they had, I think they're gonna be a really good team as well. Because I'm not sure who was controlling that. I don't know if it wasn't rated, if it was Svenskeren, but let's assume it was one of those two. Then I think they're gonna be good if they keep doing the same they were doing to trade towers for drakes, especially if they know when it's worth to trade one drake for a tower now, because it's really different. And I don't know about the other teams. Let's say Meteor Makers, Copenhagen Wolves,
Fnatic.
Gambit Giants. I think I'm not Fnatic. I have hope for them. It's like it's a question mark with them, because if you think about it, it's really up to how the two Korean players play. If they do really good, they can be a top team, one of the best. If one of them doesn't do really good, then it's gonna depend on those two guys, because I do think Febiven is really good right now. he was playing a lot and he can play a few champions really, really good, probably like wow, at their best level in Europe. Yellow
The thing
Star
is,
is
though,
as well really good and smart.
when you talk about hope, though, the problem with hope is it's a very subjective thing, you know. It's very much perspective. Like, for example, a lot of people, when they hear the word hope, might think of that famous movie, okay, Star Wars, A New Hope, the fourth movie, if you remember. And a lot of people think, that's why are you giving that example, Thorin? Like, that movie worked. Like, the hope was the Rebel Alliance managed to blow up the Death Star. But actually, from a different perspective, I always thought the hope in that movie was that this guy who was doing a really good job of running the universe, Darth Vader, hoped that his new Death Star would be able to blow up all the planets that had rebels on it. And in the end, someone fucked it up and blew his whole Death Star up. So hope was dashed. It was ruined completely, you know. It's a very subjective thing, you see. So you can have all the hope you want, but you really need to have something of substance there. You need to shore up the defenses of your Death Star, xPeke. You can't just have weaknesses, because even one small weakness, someone will fire a fucking nuclear missile without even using a tracking device, without even using one, and it will blow up your whole 16-year-old top lane. I mean, whatever the hole might be in your Death Star, okay?
Wait, did you say 16?
Well, is he 17 now?
He has to, you know.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I've just blown everything. If you're a customs officer, I believe he is 17.
I hope so for them, because if he's 16, he cannot play. So
maybe he's like you. Maybe he just had like a fake mustache on and glasses. Like, I am 25. I am Korean businessman. Monty, I wanted to ask your opinion on this because we haven't talked about it yet. What do you think of the new Fnatic lineup? I made a video where I was a bit scathing, essentially because, first of all, half the players I don't know, I've never seen them play, and some of them no one's ever seen play. And secondly, my concept was, it's one thing to gamble on one player who's unproven, but this team essentially gambles on 3 players who are unproven and one who's never played LCS. So what are your thoughts on the whole team all in all?
In Korea, Reignover is known for being like a poor LAN performer in general. Like, he has never, in compared to his like hype about his solo queue performance, he hasn't actually ever delivered. So I would say I'm just very nervous about it. I think that I'm actually a bit surprised, I guess, that Yellowstar stayed with the team. And then everybody else to me is just incredibly unproven on a big stage, and it's a huge risk to see that you're going to get that synergy. Maybe it will pay off, but I think that they're likely to struggle.
Maybe what they did is, Yellowstar said, like, listen, guys, it's time for me to retire. I've had a great career. I've made all the worlds, you know. xPeke is leaving. Soaz is leaving. Listen, the team's breaking up, you know. There's no place for me. It's time for me to retire. And then Fnatic said, like, what if we were to pay you... What if we found a loophole where we could pay you all 5 of the Riot salaries? And then he was like, well, no, that wouldn't work, though, because how would we pay the other 4? And then they're going to want a full salary. And they were like, not so fast, Yellowstar. What if we could find 4 people who were willing to play for absolutely nothing just to play in Fnatic? And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, it'll be sort of like that Make-A-Wish Foundation, you know. We'll get these young guys, some of them in Korea maybe, they've heard about the West. We'll tell them about the pizza, and we'll tell them all the good stuff that you have in the West. We'll fly them over, and all you have to do is say the team is good and just collect those 5 salaries. And Yellowstar said, like, you know what? Maybe I was too hasty with that whole retirement thing. Maybe I should give it one last try. I feel a lot of hope brewing inside me. What do you think, Monty? Give me something. You don't have to actually address that, but do you have any other thoughts about Fnatic?
I mean, I just feel like I don't have the proper information yet to really make a prediction about their performance. Besides, I mean, well, I can predict that I don't think they're going to do very well, just because I think that they have a lot of new and or unproven players, and I think the Koreans that they got were kind of an odd choice. But I think it's harder to get premier level Korean players these days with how much China is paying them. So, yeah, I don't know.
You know what I find really funny, Monty? You know, I never miss a chance on this show to bring up old instances of where the general consensus was something rather silly, which now looks even sillier, and sort of we laugh at the fans, the people who support us, Monty. So in that, continuing that trend called Thorin versus his own fan base / career, I will now bring up a case where you remember when we did that first Grilled interview where I asked you the classic question, like, would a team who's sort of 5th to 8th level in Korea, if they came to the West, would they dominate the West? And since you said yes, a lot of people were like, wow, look at this guy. He just sucks so much Korean dick. He even thinks that like the 8th best Korean player would beat all the Western players. What an asshole. Well, now what's funny is all the people who say Fnatic's going to do really well are basically saying, nah, the 98th best Korean player, no, he'd do really well if he came to Europe. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's been proven untrue. Like Ryu. I mean, a lot of these players, I suppose, had fallen off or had been relatively unproven before they hit the NA scene anyway. Whereas a player like Lustboy actually has done very well. But you know, Lustboy came in as probably like a top 8 support player in Korea, so it wasn't exactly the same thing. But regardless, a player who is a solo queue player, even in Korea, I think they may have a better motivation or better mechanics or better practice from their solo queue environment, they still need like any other player to learn how to play in a team, and that is quite difficult. I mean, that's a huge change from the solo queue environments.
What do you think of playing with Koreans, xPeke? Was it ever an option in Fnatic? Did you ever actually think about it in the teams you were in, like, let's bring a Korean guy in?
I don't think. Well, I think maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to remember if we actually thought about it. Like, I think sometimes we might have talked about it, but more like not even really thinking about it. Just like mention it, and how would it be if we had to play with someone that doesn't speak English? But I don't. We never considered that because we never felt like we could bring in just one guy that was Korean because he's really good, will improve everything. Only if he was faker. could have. Then it would have worked, yeah.
No, that was my dream for Fnatic. Remove xPeke, put in faker. Now we've got a team going, boys. Now we can win some stuff.
That was my dream.
Okay,
if you actually convince him to come here, I don't even kick me. I quit. That's fine.
Okay. That's the xPeke dream. Get replaced by faker. I got it. Okay.
But I wouldn't even feel bad because it's something I wouldn't start. At the time he was playing like a god, but
spoiler, yeah, he's still playing like a god.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. But I only saw those 3 games where he plays Serath and LeBlanc.
Yeah.
The first series I think it was, and he did good, but I didn't see more than that, so I can't tell.
So.
But yeah, we never really thought about it because I think not, like you said, if you don't take a Korean that is top 3, it's not really gonna be a huge improvement. Just bringing one player that is top 4 in Korea is not gonna be better than a player that is top 3 already in Europe. Yeah. I think at least.
So let me ask you this then. You kind of gave us a breakdown of Febevan when you talked about Fnatic. You, from playing solo queue, you must have already known about Power of Evil. Like, he was around in Challenger for a while. He's been known. He was in it very briefly. He's in Unicorns of Love now. Obviously, now everyone's really hyping him because he beat Bjergsen, he beat TSM. What can you tell us about Power of Evil? What's he like as a mid laner?
I actually, funny thing is I haven't played him that much in solo queue unless maybe he played with a different name and I didn't know or something because I didn't play that much versus him. But I had no idea he was good, you know. I will see him in solo queue sometimes, and then I don't know. He came with the team. They did really good, and I was surprised because I didn't think they would do good. And then they go against TSM. Bjergsen didn't have his best game, I think, and I don't know. They played really good. I also think TSM played really not good.
But the thing about TSM's games at IEM San Jose, and I think at least for the first part of the season, I think TSM will still be like a top level team, like top 4 team in NA. But at the same time, I think that with the way TSM is constructed currently, I mean they're kind of like a one threat team, honestly, and so their playstyle is relatively one dimensional. And I think that just shows that if Bjergsen has a bad game, TSM is not a great team, by any means.
Yeah.
Now, that was unusual, right? Bjergsen normally plays. That was well below his average level. But I think that does show some issues within the team itself. I do think that, for all intents and purposes, TSM will still be able to do well relying on the Bjergsen carry. But at least domestically, I think internationally, that's not a strategy that's ever going to work. One-threat teams don't do well in international competition. But other than that, I think that that was a dominant performance from Power of Evil. Probably that was a big overperformance by Unicorns of Love, though. I don't expect them to do quite that well in the actual season.
I think so. I think probably they practice a lot. They came really motivated because for them, just imagine for a team like that. I think it was the same for us when we went to IPL 4 or 5. The IPL we went to with Reckless.
Yeah, IPL 5.
I remember our aim was not to win, but our aim was to go there and face TSM and beat them to get their fans. That was
Okay.
that was the aim. We were like, if we go there and we beat them, it's completely worth it.
Well, you succeeded in one of your aims at least.
Yeah. Well, we actually beat TPA as well, which felt even better to 4-0 them, which
Okay.
they were like that was their next tournament after Worlds for them.
Right.
So it was really good as well. But yeah, that's what I mean. I guess that's kind of what Unicorns of Love felt as well, that they should go there and prove to everyone that they are a really good team and maybe they can beat a really famous team like TSM, and especially Power of Evil really wanted to show that he can beat Bjergsen. So probably he played super good. He did, and I don't know how he's gonna perform now, but there he did really good.
Actually, I have a quick question just on that, just to satisfy my own trivia, xPeke. You might not know this, but on Reddit, the way to be the ultimate hipster fan of League of Legends is to say that you think that Toys was like Faker, but back in Season 2. That's what they say. They say that Toys was like the best. He was the best mid laner. You played against him. Frogan didn't technically play against him. Axich played against him. All the good mids essentially got their chance in general. What was Toys actually like in Season 2? Well, he wasn't Faker, was he, in Season 2?
Season 2. Well, when I play him, I cannot. It's two different things. At Worlds I didn't play against him. I only watch the games.
You were spectating.
But when I was in there sitting in the crowd,
Okay.
crying and looking at them.
Okay.
But when I played against him at IPL, for me he didn't seem to be really good. He was good actually in lane because he would not be just bad. He would go to lane, do really good. I think he was actually putting some pressure in some of the games. But then he didn't do anything special. He was just going to lane, farming, and then whatever. Nothing. I would not call him Faker there for sure, not at all.
Okay.
At Season 2 tournament, I only saw him playing. For me, he played really good. 1 or 2 of the games I saw. Still not at the level of Faker when it comes to outplaying people 1v1 and just creating so much pressure by himself. But he still did really good, and from what I heard even from his team is that he was actually one of the main reasons that they won those games. So
Yeah, he was a great player. Just
Yeah,
wanted to get
he
your
was
insight
once.
on it since you played him.
but when I played him for sure he was not. I would not comparable to Faker. There were different times as well.
When you
Like
went to Worlds this time, what did you think of the mid? I assume you got to play against some of the Asian mids this time. Obviously, you played against Dade in the actual games. Did you practice against Goon? Did you get to play against Pawn? What was Worlds like in terms of like practices or official games against famous mid laners we'd know? Can you tell us a bit about some of them?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
I mean, we
Because
remember,
it's-
we've brought this up many times, xPeke. We remember when Dade kept spamming laugh at you or something, and then you just wrecked him, basically. You remember that?
Yeah. The thing we scream blue a lot actually, and it was funny because he just kept picking. He kept counter picking himself. After I pick my champ, he would pick a counter pick for himself, And I was like, really, why is he doing
You
this?
think
you
he
know?
was like
And
disrespecting you?
yeah, well, either he was really smart and he just wanted to play like a bad matchup. In case he had to play that bad matchup, he maybe wanted to know how to play at
Okay.
his best. So maybe that's the reasoning I had. The other reasoning I had as well is that he maybe was just trolling because he thought we were bad or something. So I don't know, but that was with Blue. When I play against Pawn, the thing with Pawn is I don't think he was exceptionally good in lane. Or like
I'm
when in
loving
lane,
this
I
one.
mean
Keep going.
in lane, I mean when it comes to mechanics, when he will just beat me, out CS me or something, but he will be super good when knowing when to move. Meaning that he wouldn't be able to zone me waves maybe, but if I try to zone him a wave, he will, instead of trying to fight for a CS and lose a trade with me, he will be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to your jungle and annoy Cyanide, and he will go with Dandy to our jungle, take all our jungle vision, fuck Cyanide, then Dandy will come to meet with him, and the game will be over because they will have all the vision and do whatever they want after that. But we didn't play them many games either, so I cannot tell
Okay.
that much. We only played them two or three games, and but that's what I felt from those games. That even when he will be losing lane for any reason, he will just move and not keep losing lane, but make other lanes win instead.
And he has Dandy, yeah. So amen. I'm with
And
you,
it's Dandy
brother.
as well.
Keep preaching in the choir. Keep going.
And that's it about it. And
Did you play against Goom, Najim White Shield?
anyway, Shield, can you tell me the whole lineups because I confused them? Who was the
Goon,
jungler?
save, watch.
Watch, yeah, we played, and that team was actually the most annoying to play against
Why?
in screens because they Watch would not take after minute 5 or 6, I don't know which minute it was exactly. We watched the replays, and he will not even take any of his jungle camps. He will live in our jungle. Him and the support. They will both. He will recall. He will buy like how much money do I have? 1 ping ward, 3 ring wards, perfect. Go to the enemy jungle, put a ward in every bros, ping ward in every bros in the river, and then they will live there.
Gorilla was
And-
the support player.
Monty's
Yeah.
like, please stop. I can
Exactly.
only get so hard right now. Yeah? Any other details?
He's loving it right now.
I am
But-
loving it. It's the best.
But yeah, that's just those were like the three teams we played the most, and well, White we didn't play that much, only 3 games, but the other two, Blue and Ajin, those were the two teams we played the most. Then we play CJ Blaze. I don't know if it was Blaze still at that time or it was already a mix.
Okay. Was
But we
Ambition
played-
playing mid?
Yeah, Ambition was there, but the
Okay.
others had Smurf names or
okay.
Smurf accounts.
Was
like
the top laner
Korean
really
letters.
good?
How do I put this?
Did he totally
No, he-
dumpster
well,
Soaz and embarrass him and make him almost want to quit?
No, the opposite actually. So was actually.
Oh,
only
yeah, I think it
good
was a new
games.
team. Yeah, it was a new team. Yeah.
No, I don't know. But versus them, it was funny because Ambition was actually doing he picked weird a few of the games. I didn't find them strong at all. So maybe it was they were just trying new players, but I didn't find them strong at all. I'm not gonna say weak because they were still really good, but they will not be able to snowball games like other. Even if they get an advantage, they will not snowball it. They will not necessarily win a game like because they get a kill in a free kill or something. They will not already win the game. So I didn't feel that they were too strong. And besides that, we didn't practice it. The other teams we practiced were like maybe Samsung practice team. I don't know if it was IM team or MVP team. Some of those teams. We played some of other teams that were maybe not so known for other people. But yeah, those are pretty much the teams, I think.
Do you have a question about Worlds, Monty? Do you have anything you ever wanted to know about Worlds and Fnatic?
Yeah, this is just more of a feeling question, but one of your plays when you dueled Dade in the Talon versus Zed duel at Worlds, that was like by far one of the best plays of like this past year. Like, how was that experience inside the game, and how did you feel like immediately afterwards as well? Because it was such a like pretty incredible moment.
Yeah, it's funny because I wasted my W to go to the golems. I had no idea he was there. So when I went there and he went on me, I thought I was dead. I'm like, okay, I'm dead. But then the moment he ultimate and he ultimated, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna ultimate back and I'm gonna die. He ultimate too fast, which so I was able to ultimate as well, and I dodged one of his ultimates. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, I'm probably gonna die, but I'm gonna maybe kill him if I'm able to burst him completely. but it was super awkward because at the end of before my ultimate pop, the reason why I hit the golem, which a lot of people think it was calculated to kill the golem and get it free or something, I was actually just looking at when he was gonna land his auto attack, so I will flash it and he will not hit me. And meanwhile, I was just pressing auto attack move, so my character decided to attack the golem, and then I flashed when he was gonna do his auto, and that's why it looked like it's calculated, but it's actually not.
You know the best part about that,
I was just making sure he wouldn't auto me before I flash. I just wanted to make waste as much possible.
The best
So
part
he
about
will-
that is that Monty listed that as one of the plays of the year precisely because it was so calculated and because you knew to attack the golem at the end. And now again, you've broken all of his dreams here. Apparently, Monty,
Sad times.
people in Europe just play the game. It's a game to like Monty's like, you think this is a motherfucking game? Yeah, it is. They just play the game, Monty. They don't do this practice and tactics. They just play the game, dude. It's a fun
Well,
game.
but
League of Legends.
It's not like I can practice that action.
No,
anyway,
it's true.
but-
Sure.
No, you can't. I mean, you can't like practice that action, but just in terms of finishing off the golems in order to keep yourself alive through the,
Well, the goal,
dot.
yeah, the goal is I finished them with the Q, but I think they would have
Yeah,
died
right.
even with the auto attack, anyways. So
I mean, to be fair, at this point in time, you sort
I
of
think it
can
would
practice
matter.
those scenarios because apparently every single Worlds, you just get to dumpster Dade in a few games. Like, that's just allowed to happen now. The rest of the season, he's awesome. But you sign some sort of pact with the devil where when he comes close to you, you have, like, Dade resistance or something, and he just becomes weak and ineffectual.
Dade Kryptonite. That's what
Yeah.
xPeke has.
xPeke is Dade Kryptonite.
maybe it's that.
Who did you
Well,
think was the
I-
best mid laner at Worlds? Who would your pick be?
Let me think right now. Well, obviously, when it comes to team play and the team in general, Pawn was the best because he knew exactly how to move with the team. But individually, I don't know. I'm trying to think all the other mid laners because
mean,
some
we
of them
had-
I couldn't.
Okay, we had Dade, we had Goom, we had Cool, we had Froggen, we had you, we had Bjergsen. Who do you think was the best individually? We had Froggen, we had... No, who do you think is the best? Go on.
But stop saying those names. You confuse me.
Okay,
It's
so
just-
we had Cool,
Keep saying others.
we had Froggen, we had... Okay, yeah.
Fro. I'm trying to think names. No, I don't know. I cannot give it to one right now, especially because I don't really remember. I will have to watch the whole games. Like Froggen played really good some games, but he
Yeah,
also
yeah,
did
yeah,
a few
yeah.
games that were not so good.
Okay,
though.
so what we could agree on then, though, is that none of them stood out enough that you could say that Froggen definitely wasn't the best. No, I'm just fucking with you. No, it's fair enough, actually. Actually, Monty, let me bring you in on that. That's actually a weird thing. Despite how Worlds played out, mid lane's actually one of the positions where it's hard to say who was like the superstar MVP type guy at mid lane, right? Because the team that won, the mid lane wasn't even the best player.
Well, yeah, I mean that was a bit of an odd situation, but I still think that probably overall Pawn had the best individual performance out of the mid laner, but he did have a ton of help from Dandy and Mata. So how he would have done without those two players providing so much vision for him is definitely a matter of debate. But he did have a fantastic tournament at Worlds as well. So yeah.
Yeah, if I had to choose one, I would give it to him because he actually played good. He's not saying that he played bad. He played really, really good. But, so yeah.
When
I feel like
do you watch OGN during the normal season, xPeke?
The last summer, spring, I only watched like SKT games, and some Samsung games, and in summer I was watching a lot more games. I think I watched almost the whole playoffs during summer.
When you see how good the Korean mid laners are, so for example, I mean, there was a famous game in spring last year where Dade had a Twisted Fate game where he just went completely ham and killed everyone. There was a bunch of games where people were amazing mid laners in Korea. Goon was really good for Shield for a while. When you see how good they are in OGN, is it like at all underwhelming when you get to play them at Worlds? Like, are they as good as they seem just watching, you know? If you actually play them, are they a bit more human?
Yes. That's true. Well, the thing is, something that doesn't happen to me anymore when I watch them on the stream is since I'm not playing them, they are playing against each other. I don't really take that as a thing to say how good they are individually, because I cannot really know that myself. It's like something that happened as well to me when first time I faced Faker. Before facing him, I was like, I really have no idea how good he is. I don't even think he's that good. That's what I told myself.
I mean, it makes sense, because he's only played against fucking, just the odd Korean guy. He has
Yeah,
never played against xPeke, so how can we even know how good he is,
Of course, exactly. Would he be daddy and stuff like this? I don't know.
I believe you actually said to him before the game went live, right? You typed in, like, Faker, if you come at the king, you best not miss. And then you started the game, right? You unpaused at that point,
Yeah, I did. No, but I remember the first scrims we played, I was okay. Let's face him, and then I actually felt how good he was, because it's a lot different when you see him and when you play him. Because when you're watching the stream, you have the whole vision. You see where the junglers are. You are like, why didn't he go aggressive here? Why did he had to do that bad trade right now? Why did he blah blah blah? But then when you're the one playing and you feel the pressure he puts on you for every last hit, well, this is talking about season 3. He used to put so much pressure for every last hit you were gonna take. So if it felt really, really hard to play against him, but that's the only guy I felt. Yeah, that's the only guy I ever played that I felt like it was hard to lane against.
Did you get to play him in scrims when you were in Korea? Was SKT just off? Were they not playing at all?
Yeah, they were like they were not playing at all. At least not. That's what they told us. So I don't know if they play versus someone else.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody saying that they scrimmed SK Telecom during the boot camp pre-Worlds in Korea.
Oh, and I've just realised we've all committed a sin here. See, what we've done here, xPeke, is we listed like Froggen, Bjergsen, Porn, but we forgot to mention the best Western mid laner, High from Cloud9. He actually got the highest on solo queue of everyone who went to Korea, therefore he's the best.
Yeah.
You can't dispute that. He's a challenger player in Korea.
It was a master scrub there. I didn't even get the challenger here.
Yeah, so he's like confirmed better than you for sure. So
and that's why we lost.
I heard that High said before he played you the first time, like, when he saw you in Europe, he thought you looked all right, but you were just playing against Europeans, and it's not until you played against him that he would know if you were actually good.
That's true. And then when it was in Battle of the Atlantic, he got to face my Renekton mid and suffer
he dumps
the race of the.
That was a good cheese. That was some classic cheese there. Speaking of great pick ban phases, that was a good one right there, buddy.
It was pretty good.
What was the thinking behind Renekton mid lane, a farm lane, may I remind you, where people can get away and farm the whole game long? You picked Renekton. You were going for the late game, obviously.
I don't remember what happened exactly, but every time I practice it, the thing is with Renekton at level 3 or something, I would be able to kill Kassadin. At level 3, like always.
Who was playing Kassadin, like Coutard or something in these practices? What do you mean you could kill Kassadin?
So some random scrub from Master League. Now that makes sense, right? If I was Master, of course. Couldn't even play versus Challenger people. No, but I did try it and
was it actually going well in scrims?
Yeah. It did go well, because I think who did this to us. The thing is, the guy who did that to us, I think, was Darian, who would play Renekton mid versus Kassadin. That was long time ago, and it worked really good.
I find it's good to take picks and builds from Darian. He's in many ways a pioneer of the mid lane. I'm glad that Monty's really learning a lot about Europe right now, about the way that our meta evolves.
Jeez.
And don't worry though, xPeke. I know it was just an exhibition.
At least I tried. I tried once. It didn't work. Then I stopped. It's nothing bad about it. Nothing wrong with that. I don't know.
Fair enough. That's actually the same method Soaz uses for picking champions, I believe. I tried once, guys. It didn't work. I won't do that again. But Soaz, that was Dr. Mundo. No, I tried it once and it didn't work. Therefore, now I get to pick anything I want. Like, okay. Is there any other? Okay, I've got a weird question for you. If you had to pick the team in Europe who could surprise this season, like, so no one would expect this team to be good, but you actually think this team, maybe there's like an outside chance they could come like 4th or 3rd or something high. Is there anyone who's like could be a real shock to people? Don't know how good this team is, or they've got some good players that we're not so sure about. Do you have anyone in mind?
Well, Fnatic, I guess I would say, because people don't think they are gonna do that good. But that wouldn't be a shock anyways in the end. Let me think. Giants maybe. But I don't think they will but even for me, that would be a shock because I don't think they would be like top 3 either.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch.
Plus they're
So,
Spanish, you know.
Yeah.
And you're the exception to the rule that Spanish people, you know, are bad at League of Legends. I mean, all we had so far was we had Ocelot, we had Mithy. Remember Mithy in promotions, guys? Don't start remembering that other guy who was good. We had Mithy, the Ocelot, and then we had Giants. And
Aaron, yeah.
yeah.
All right.
And yeah. Okay. Conversation over. It's over.
He did play really good at some point.
No,
But
he was very good in season 2 regional. He was very good there when he
Yeah,
triple buffed CLGEU.
yeah, he played really good there. And when they came in with alternate,
Oh,
yeah,
initially in
like
summer
summer
season,
split?
yeah, when they were doing well
When they
before
came in,
Clayton
at
busted
first-
his hand.
Yeah, but at first he was playing really good, and his leasing was actually super good. And I don't know, I think he was really good when he played a lot at that time.
Before Pharrell and Lord, the best player of all time, you know, like the highest ELO player in
Yeah, he
European
got the most
history.
ELO.
He was amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him actually. I don't know.
Well,
It was
there's a
weird
saying
with
in
him because
maths
he was really good, and then suddenly he used to stop maybe
He
playing
remembered
as
that he
much, or I
sucked.
don't know.
I'll tell you what happened with. I'll explain this to you. Like Monty, while you were away, we were just talking about Pharrell and Lord, and basically xPeke was saying that he doesn't know what happened. You know, Pharrell and Lord was really good, and then suddenly he just wasn't good anymore. Okay, you know, in cartoons, xPeke, when like the Roadrunner is being chased by Wile E. Coyote, and then they go off a cliff, and Wile E. Coyote runs, and for a while he's just running, even though he's just on thin air. But then when he looks down and he realizes he's not actually on the cliff anymore, he just plummets down and you don't see him again. Like that's what happened to Throne Lord's career.
So solo queue was the solid ground, but as soon as he got into the professional scene, he just kept going for a little bit. His like legs like pinwheeling, and then that was it. When he realized that he had to perform in front of an audience.
Oh, that one is actually one of your best.
It's one of my better analogies. Okay, fair enough. It wasn't so bad. Yeah, almost fit. Even though I compare a player to an animal again, but fair enough. We'll get away with that one, I believe, this time.
Which other players did you compare to animals?
I don't think it's ever happened
we're not
before,
going
has it?
there. No, we're not going there.
I'm comparing myself to an elephant now, xPeke, and I don't remember. I have a bad memory. I forget these things. No, it's elephants I never forget. A goldfish. Goldfish is the one I meant there, Monty.
Yep.
Right, we're almost at the end of the segment with xPeke now, because he actually, as I let everyone into the behind the scenes before on the other show last week, xPeke, that I actually asked people before if they're really into the other regions, and if they say no, then I pretend like they have to go, like, oh, there's a phone call for you, sir, in the lobby. Oh, he has to go now, guys. Let's wrap this segment up with xPeke then.
Oh no, I think xPeke wants to join us for talking about the broadcasting situation with the LPL. I know he has some criticisms of Riot that he would like to release his pent up feelings.
Now's the time. They can't find you. You're in Challenger.
If I had, I would. The problem is I don't really know much about it. You can explain me the situation. If you want, you can explain me the situation, and then I can pretend that someone's calling me on the phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do it. Should we wrap this segment up then? Do you have any final questions for xPeke, Monty?
No, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. That's good as well.
Okay. Thanks, mate.
Good luck to Origen or Origen or however you want to say it. Which do you prefer?
Origen.
Which do you prefer? So I know how to say it.
Origin is better because Origen I know it's really hard for you guys to say. So just say Origin. I never respected. I think I said it even. I never respected any of the casters or anything to ever say Origen. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's our job to figure out how it's supposed to be said and then say it that way. So that's why I asked.
Sure. We'll see. We'll see if we make it. If we make it LCS, then you have to deal with that problem.
Okay.
Okay, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Okay, just hang up. Actually, just turn off the Google Hangouts thing.
No, let me put this first.
I look forward to the xPeke branded monocles.
And mustaches. And the cake. Wait. We have to do the full run. the
Okay,
full
go on
run
then.
now.
Go on then. Give me it all. Give me everything you got.
I'm going. How to adjustment? There we go. Go. There. This is going crazy.
Okay. There's his crown. If you come at the king, you best not miss Dade.
There we go. With the full beer.
Okay, great.
Oh, I missed
Perfect.
something. Okay. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm a.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we can never use Google Hangouts again.
Bye.
So, yeah.
Bye.
So a Spanish guy has disappeared, just like he arrived in mysterious form. Now we're going to talk about those boring Asian regions, that segment of the show again. But first and foremost, before we get in, I was looking forward, Monty, to having a discussion about LPL, this new region that we've never watched out very heavily ourselves. We just mainly watched the big games. So obviously we had all these important Korean players going there. We had a chance to talk about it. There was this new takeover, and I heard that like it was going to be up the broadcast quality. We'd have new casters, and I thought, all these topics we'll have to talk about. Then LPL came, I watched the broadcast. I was informed that after the first day, some of the games on day 2 and day 3 wouldn't even be shown. There wouldn't ever be VODs of those games put on the English channel. What were your initial thoughts on this?
Okay, I want to go back and like contextualize this conversation because in the last episode when Riot made the announcement that they were taking over the LPL from the LPL EN stream people like Kelsey Moser and Pira and Froskren, we said this is an understandable move for Riot, and like it makes sense that they want to provide a higher quality broadcast for fans, and that this in theory is a good thing, but it came down to the execution.
Quality being in terms of production there, yeah.
Quality being in terms of production. So I think we have to necessarily compare this to where the LPL stream was at the time and what the LPL EN channels plans were. Because remember, really when people are like, well, now we have an HD broadcast, because you have to remember that when LPL English started, those people, they were restreaming the non-HD Chinese stream, right? But then it got better. And so what we really have to compare it against, I think, is the LPL playoffs, like that final push by the LPL EN people. But by this time, you'll remember that they had access to the tournament realm at that time, right? So the stream was in HD for the playoffs for LPL. We had Pira and Froskren at a desk because Twitch helped them set that up, and they flew them out to California in order, I think they were in California, in order to be able to do that. But they had them single camera at a casting desk, in suits and nice clothes. And then they had an HD stream with access to the tournament realm. So that was where we had gotten to with LPL EN. Now, would LPL EN have had an actual physical location and a camera and desk to do the broadcast out of this season? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe that would have been something they were looking to set up in collaboration with Twitch in the future. Maybe Twitch would have let them use those facilities again. But from what I can tell, Thorin, if we compare them, also, we had replays based on, like they would cut in the LPL EN playoff match, they would cut to the Chinese stream when the Chinese stream did a replay. So you actually had that coming in as well, and then flip back to the other feed, the actual in-game tournament realm feed. So what did we get out of this situation when Riot takes over the broadcast? We get a single camera on a casting desk for a remote location. So nothing's changed from the actual production package quality. And except we don't get all the games, and we get casters. And again, I want to emphasize here, this is not the casters' fault, and do not bag on the casters. I actually think that they have some good casters that Riot's assembled there, and I have a very high opinion of Papa Smithy as an analyst in particular. But given the short timeline, they don't have the same level of expertise that the LPL EN crew had, because they lived and breathed China, did their own shows about China, obsessed over China, wrote articles about China, like everything China, right? But instead we get effectively the same production quality less informed casting, at least for the moment, right? And same production quality, at least for the moment, and we don't get a bunch of the games. And we're not going to get a bunch of the games, except maybe
watch the Chinese VOD.
Unless we go watch the Chinese VOD. And in the future, we're not even going to get a live broadcast, which for me, I don't really care that much about, because when you start watching a lot of VODs, those like 30-minute breaks that they have in the LPL are actually awful, because it's just such a waste of time when you have to review so many VODs like I do. But the VODs are more important to me, but the VODs are going to be coming out, within 48 hours of the live broadcast. So they're not even going to be like, there's going to be a delay on that as well. So one could say that this is actually worse than what we were getting with the LPL originally. And I've heard that the reason why they can't broadcast these Oceanic games and LPL games simultaneously is that they don't have the bandwidth in the studio. Also possible that, they only have that one desk. I mean, obviously the studio is nowhere near as advanced as Riot's other studios. So the question is, will Riot level this up? Probably. And eventually, I assume this is going to be quite a good broadcast. But for the moment, it just seems like Riot should not have screwed with the LPL EN until they were actually ready to do this. It seems like they took it away without a plan. And now almost every aspect is suffering as a result.
Also, let me ask you this as well. If I was faced with a scenario where I have two choices, I can either show all the LPL games, or I can show some LPL games and I can show the Oceanic region. That's not even a debate for me right there. I'd show all the LPL games. Sorry, if push comes to shove, I'm going to have to push out the Oceanic there. Sorry, LPL's better.
Yeah.
Instead, they've chosen, remember, it's not that they can't do this. They've chosen. They've chosen
yes,
the Oceanic
they've chosen to do
has
this.
to be represented as well. Secondly, I've got a second point for you here, Monty. Imagine I'm in this scenario where I need the same casters and the same stream to do my Oceanic games that are doing the LPL games. So they do some of the LPL games, but at a certain point, the stream and maybe even some of the casters are going to be doing the Oceanic games. God, if only there was other streams in the world and other channels, and imagine if there were other casters who knew about Chinese League of Legends who could take over. God, we don't live in that world, though, I'm afraid. That's just fantasy.
Yeah, I don't see why. Like, I understand. Okay, here's what I understand. I understand that Riot wouldn't, if they don't have no control over the stream, why they wouldn't want it on the Riot Games channel. I get that. I mean, that's really giving people who they have no control over the keys to the kingdom. But you could have not put it on the Riot Games channel in the first place and made a separate channel. Because the thing about the Riot Games channel, too, is you have to remember that is actually, here's another scenario that is frustrating from my perspective. So because these LPL games start earlier, they go on the main Riot Games channel, right? So then OGN gets the Riot Games 2 channel, which has in turn affected, and I feel that, I don't have definitive information because we've only been doing this for a couple days so far, but it's actually lowered the viewership for OGN because people don't know what's going on. See, remember, the Riot Games 2 channel has barely been used, and there are still sub 50,000 followers on that channel who get alerted when the Twitch channel goes live, whereas Riot Games has, here's the difference, 1.2 million. And On GameNet's old channel has 350,000. So basically, now OGN is getting shunted off into a side channel, which is really bad because you have to remember that the thing about OGN is that by not having subscribers anymore, they need higher numbers in order to make up for that revenue, right? So now LPL's on the main Riot Games channel, so it's messing with On GameNet as well.
I also just thought of another imaginary solution here, okay? So we're stuck in a situation where there are some games going on in China, but there's not an English stream and no one's doing anything at all. So what we really need is some sort of plucky, sort of fix it up yourself group of people to come in who could sort of host it on their own channel, some sort of English broadcast that maybe they could put together and they could do the research for, and then the English language speaking community would have someone that they could watch it from. I think what we need is a time machine. That's what we need right there.
I mean, and that it's just crazy. Like I said, I think that I appreciate Riot's idea about this, and I understand what they're trying to do, but you don't pull the trigger until you are ready to deal with it. And instead, look, we gave Riot the benefit of the doubt. We talked about all the positives of this on the last show because we didn't know what it would actually look like. This was before they announced that they weren't even going to be live broadcasting all the games, that the VODs for the English broadcast would be delayed. And we didn't know what kind of production value this would have. It's not a nice production value like the LCS. It is a single camera on casters and tournament realm. Like there is no substantive production difference right now between playoffs that happen in the LPL that Twitch and LPL EN casters put on and what we've been given, except that we have now not complete coverage of the games.
Just to play devil's advocate here, because I know what people are going to say. Not only devil's advocate, but just to represent what people will say as a counter to that, Monty. People will say, yeah, but how can you compare that? Because they were flown out to LA, whereas then they did the rest of them, they weren't flown out. Well, that's the whole point. If those casters were hired by Riot, presumably they would go to wherever this studio is and they would do it from the studio. So it would be the same. It would be the same setup, but with those casters. So again, it would be an identical setup. So, okay, actually, there's a famous saying in basketball, okay? Well, you know when someone goes up and he tries to do like a 360 windmill dunk in traffic over a guy's hand and do like an insane move, okay? Instead of doing maybe a safe play. There's a famous saying that they used to say, this really enigmatic commentator used to say that's a $1 million move, 99-cent finish. You know when he goes up and does it, but then he slams it off the backboard and he fucks it up, and it looked like it was going to be awesome. If he'd have landed it, it would have been the best thing possible. But at the end, he sort of fucked it up a bit.
Well, that's the thing here is, again, I do think that Riot will get this together, and I understand what they're trying to do. I appreciate the fact that they want to make the HD content, free for fans from OGN. I appreciate that they want to up the production value of the second best league in the world, maybe the best league in the world right now. There's not enough evidence to say, right? Obviously, it's going to be I think LPL is going to be much more competitive than it ever has been. But with that in mind, like there's no free pass for this because there was something that was functional that has been replaced with something dysfunctional with no notable upsides at the moment, at least for the present time. And again, I want to stress, not the fault of the casters. They were surprised by this. And so the fact that they're not going to have the knowledge is not their fault. They just don't have time to do the research yet. They will be good in time. But the situation is that instead of giving the long build-up the proper transition, it's been a jarring transition that has been botched, basically.
So let's talk a bit then about a league that's considered one of the best in the world, Monty. It features all these star players who are Korean. That's right, it's LPL. Let's talk about LPL now. So LPL began, yeah?
There's a caveat. I've only seen about 50% of the games so far because I was casting simultaneously to most of the games. So, I haven't seen, EDG play. I haven't seen OMG play. I haven't seen Vici play. So there are a bunch of situations here where, I've only seen, World Elite, IG, M3, Starhorn.
Okay. Well, we'll go through them one by one, okay? Because like you, Monty, I also haven't seen them all. But that's because I watch Riot English language broadcast streaming. Anyway, so let's just start off with... You haven't seen OMG, so let's start off with... how about IG?
We're recording this Sunday morning Korean time, so there's still one day left that hasn't even been played yet while we're having this discussion.
How about IG then? Because if you remember, the recent rumors were supposedly that IG was actually going to go with the combo of Save and Rookie. That's what they said.
Right.
But instead, Save and Kakao rather.
Right.
Instead, it was Rookie and Kakao, the original ones that were kind of actually only came to their team at the last minute, because originally they had wasn't it Save and Fly were the ones they originally bought with the two Koreans? And so last minute they got Rookie and Kakao in, and this time they actually went with that combo. And it was really good actually. Right?
It was really good.
Rookie had a really good game on Twisted Fate. Kakao was on Jarvan. What did you think of the new IG?
Well, in that match too, we can talk about it in comparison to World Elite, because I really just felt like only 3 players kind of showed up to play that game, and it was Spirit, Kakao, and Rookie. And Spirit even started out 4-0 the next game, on Rengar. But I really feel that while the individual performances of these players were good, IG, more so WE than IG, but WE looked like they had real communication problems around when to engage and what to do on the map. IG looked a bit tighter, but I'd like to see them against kind of a better team before I give an evaluation of them, because Rookie was pretty much just steamrolling the mid lane, and he was able to kind of hard carry the team just based on his individual performance. So that wasn't a very good indication of IG's ability to have teamwork when one player gets that far ahead.
Well, plus, in general, a lot of the Koreans had like hit and miss performances over these first games, okay, even these big names. But I have to say, in terms of IG, it felt like they almost cheated a little bit, because first of all, they brought the mid-jungler synergy that already was in KTA, and all that happened in the whole game, if you go watch the highlights video, was Kakao engage hard in, and then Destiny comes in comes Rocky right afterwards to land a gold card. Like, if I was going to pick a combo for a team who don't know how to play with each other and just want to just follow whoever goes in, that would be it, you know?
Yeah, it was a little too easy, I think. So I'm looking for IG to have, a little bit more of a test.
Like, instead, let's see when they play, like, well, almost anything else. Let's see when he plays Kha'Zix's jungle and then mid lane Oriana. Let's see how that game goes, instead. That's the one that'll be my test. So, okay, another team then. So, M3, did you say you watched them?
Yeah, that was...
My boy Dade,
oh my
who looks
God.
like actual shit in this league. Dade looks worse than I've ever seen him play in his life.
Oh, I mean, that was just... I was watching the game. So I watched the games like before the matches at OGN, because they start at 2 p.m. here, and I don't usually broadcast till 5 or 6, so I'm able to catch kind of the earlier... I've been able to catch the earlier matches. But Starhorn, obviously they played well, but Dade looked... And Looper looked awful. Like, Looper was playing top Annie, and it was just terrible picks, terrible play. And so it was all too easy, I think, for Starhorn Royal Club to actually come through and win that game. But M3 looks real bad. And also Starhorn didn't look great either. They were very slow about how they closed the game out, and it was pretty much a shit show, that series. So I was not really impressed.
Okay, this segment here will be called Smug/Facetious Thorin. Okay, so I actually was hoping, Monty, that you wouldn't bring up Looper's performance, because I don't know if my eyes look a bit red, but I've actually been crying myself to sleep over it. I was so heartbroken to see that the best top laner of all time, by far the best at Worlds, came into this new league being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then somehow, without those scrubs, Dandy and Mata, just clogging up the areas with wards and whatnot, and without a solid mid laner who xPeke just called the best at Worlds, and without the best bot lane maybe of all time, somehow his performance was lackluster, he was weak-willed, he was ineffectual. Somehow those 121 champions that he has a winning record on, he just wasn't winning on them anymore. I don't understand it, Monty. Everything that makes sense to me about League of Legends doesn't make sense anymore. I just feel like I'm lost in the world. I almost feel as though, sometimes clothes make the man, sometimes teams make the man also, and they make someone appear better and give them a comfort room, and sometimes they're not target banned. It's interesting just the different factors that go into this game. I'm learning a lot, because I thought that you just looked who won the game and then you gave that a tick on his win rate on that champion, and I thought you just looked at his score in the game and said, well, his score is better than Flames. I don't even know why I brought that up there. Just better than a really good other old top laner who's shit now. I thought that's all you did. I thought that's how analysis worked, Monty. What do you think of this?
I think that, especially given Looper's playstyle and the emphasis that Looper had on his team's communication, because if we look at Looper's strengths, it was his map play and his teleport play, and I don't expect him to do well on a team that doesn't have very tight communication, or where they don't have a very strong shot caller like Mata in order to kind of use him as a tool to win fights on the opposite side of the map. So, I'm not really too surprised.
In his case, I would just put it down to a lot of those factors. And also, by the way, I imagine he'll play better than that game there. Even though I'm being a bit facetious there, he'll most likely, his level will raise a lot more than that as the season goes on. He'll be a good player. In terms of Dade, though, I know everyone wants to bag on Dade. In fact, actually, I've noticed because he's so exceptional when he's at his peak. I think people get annoyed that like they think you're overrating him, so they're almost like waiting for him to fail. So they can be, oh, he was never that good anyway. Unfortunately, my read on this Monte is, I think once like that thing of like when does the check clear? Monday, and then once it clears, it's like you're home free at that point. I feel like once that check cleared and all those zeros went into his bank account. He's just on like a free roll in life now, Whatever happens, hey, if he happens to trip over and play a good game, fair enough. But he's not going to break his back getting off the couch to have that good game, okay? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Dade is pretty much done now that he's in China. I'll be surprised if he ever returns to the form that he had in the past year. Also, just in my observations from Dade as a person, he's a bit of an odd duck, and I see him having difficulty just like getting motivated in that environment, in a mixed language environment. I think he just doesn't give a fuck anymore.
It's actually depressing because if you take aside motivation and personal issues and cultural issues, just style of play, China should be this guy's playground. They're going to let him have champions he wants, just go into team fights, create havoc, just bounce all over the place on Yasuo, killing everyone. It should be awesome.
Yeah, it should be.
So which team should we go to next, Monty? Who's coming into the top now?
I mean, like I said, I haven't
LGD.
Seen,
Did you see LGD play?
I have not seen LGD play. I've not seen EDG play. I've not seen LGD play. I've not seen OMG play.
I'll give you I'll give you the Cliff's notes of the LGD game. So game 1, the Heretic was playing, and who even cares what happened there? Not really of any consequence. Game 2, oh Lord, here he came. Lord Flame off the bench. Came in there, and you know what he did first of all, Monty? He said, I'm here in China. I think I'll just take first blood. I think I'll just show everyone what's up in this game. He played Aurelia. Actually, in those games, the team they were playing, I would have said it doesn't matter because the team they were playing was Energy Pacemaker, who are supposed to be shit, except that Energy Pacemaker then went on to beat, who was it today?
They've only played one series so far.
Okay.
LGD.
No, who is it? What? Oh, the team that beat M3, wasn't that Snake?
Yes.
And they're supposed to be.
No. The team that Royal beat M3. Snake has beaten GT and WE.
That's right. Snake beat WE. So, I mean, that alone is a bit worrying if you're in WE. Because WE was supposed to be hyped. Did you see WE play at all?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, where I saw IG versus WE, and it was really tragic. I mean, WE, Spirit looks like he's like 1v9ing, basically. In those games, like in the second game where he played Rengar, he's been playing Jungle Riven and some weird stuff too. I feel like he has this mentality that he just has to carry. But he was like 4-0 in the second game against IG, and his team like wasn't following up on his engages or like helping him whatsoever. So it looks like there's some pretty severe synergy and communication issues within that team at the moment.
Who else is worth mentioning? Because we can't mention the big names. We can't mention EDG, OMG. We'll do it on the next one. Who else should we talk about? Vici, did you see them play?
No, I did not see them play.
Okay. Who else is in Chinese league?
I haven't seen Gamti. I haven't seen Energy Pacemaker. So I haven't seen King. So anyway, the point is like I was only able to see a few matches due to my own broadcasts coinciding and having 2 broadcast days in a row. So this weekend, obviously, I'm going to go through and watch all the games, and then I'll be in a better place to discuss the entire week.
Let me ask you about this concept then, Monty, because I mean, we'll get into some of this on the Korean broadcast, actually, because the similar things happening in Korea. These teams really seem committed in certain cases to using rotating lineups. Like, for example, unless IG is literally just going to bench save for the entire season, it looks like they really are going to have games where they just swap in and out of that 3-man combo. And supposedly, I'm guessing Kakao's the only one that'll stay each time. It'll be Save and Kakao, it'll be Rocky and Kakao. As a concept, listen, it'd be great to have that luxury and to be able to do different things. And that's all. In an ideal world, maybe that'd be great. But first of all, I mean, to be a great player, I think you have to play the whole season. You have to play every game. It's part of being blooded and fully experienced by the time playoffs comes and whatnot. Isn't it a bit of a waste to have Save and then just sit him on the bench?
Well, they don't really have much of a choice because they can only run 2 Korean players at any given time, right?
But that's a bit of a flaw in terms of purchasing those players.
Well, but the thing is, they had Save first, and then maybe they saw the opportunity because Kakao and Rookie were on whatever team fell through, and both of those guys are really good players, sure. And they also don't have a jungle sub, so they will have to use Kakao in all of their matches. They have 2 top laners and 2 mid laners, and as long as it just depends, as the staff at that point, you have to sit back and say, well, what is the difference between Zitai and Rookie, and what is the difference between Save and Pokemon? And if they feel that the bigger gulf exists between Zitai and Rookie, then they'll run Rookie. You know what I mean?
Thing is, though, this is like the Easy Hoon thing. I want to see Easy Hoon play every game. I want to see Faker play every game. I'd rather Easy Hoon play for some other team, like, well, I mean, just a bottom team at the moment. What Incredible Miracle, whatever, go there, So to me, it's just kind of, it sucks that there's going to be great players at the moment, Save, Flame, whoever it is, who just don't play half the games.
Yep, that's true. But maybe we'll see them traded or whatever. Maybe they'll get tired of sitting on the bench and want to play full time and come back to Korea. Who knows? Who knows? But I mean, it will be hard because it's like almost all the teams have 2 Koreans except for like King and OMG right now, like on the starting roster. So, and Gamti. And Energy Pacemaker has 2 Koreans, but they haven't. I don't think they used them in the first game. So
it's like in League of Legends, you're not allowed to ever have all the stars be in the right sort of team at the right time, played in the right way. Because not only are they swapping in and out these Koreans and these subs and all the rest of it, but on top of that, now you've got a scenario where OMG has recruited Uzi and now apparently refused to put him with a really good support player. It's like you're never allowed to actually have what you want in life. You have to have it put before you and then just dismantled and taken away gradually, piece by piece.
Well, there's a long time left. We'll see if OMG actually uses Cloud. Again, I haven't seen those games yet, but apparently Uzi thinks that Luo's better outside of lane while Cloud's better inside of lane. I haven't seen Luo play, so I don't really know. I don't have an assessment on him yet, but that's what I heard.
Every time I ask those Chinese guys, I always say it like as a rhetorical question, like, why do they keep kicking the Cloud guy? And they always tell me, matter of fact, it's because like he doesn't get along with this player. And they always usually say Loveling's the one he doesn't get along with, okay? So I say, this is what I say, if I was the coach of OMG, when Loveling says like, well, I don't like this Cloud guy, I just don't like his attitude, I don't want to play with him, I'd say like, Loveling, come in here a second. Then I would grab him, and as I do apparently on every episode, I always use this analogy, I would strap him down like Malcolm in Clockwork Orange with the matchsticks under his eyes, and I would force him to watch over and over that piece of film where Faker comes up to shake his hand and he refuses to shake his hand because he's so boiling over with rage, and he just looks through his monitor into the 7th dimension. I would force him to watch that clip over and over again and say, do you like it when that happens? That's what happens when you don't play with Cloud. See? Do you see what happens there? Do you want to play with Cloud? And then I would wait until I broke him eventually. I think I would get there in the end,
Great plan. Why aren't you a head coach again?
Because I turned it down to do this show, brother. Yeah. So let's go on to Korea now. In Korea, let's go from that same topic there. Why in Korea are teams playing lineups where Najin loses a series but never had their best bot lane, and then SK Telecom continues to swap out the best mid laner and best player of all time? Are these teams really just going to stick with this approach, do you think, for the whole season? Is this just because it's early on?
I think it's because it's early on, and the teams know that this is a long season. I mean, remember, we do have 14 best of threes per team.
Okay. So they just don't want fatigue or something?
So maybe they don't want fatigue. Maybe they want to continue to experiment a little bit. I was very surprised that Najin decided to run Zephyr and Pure against CJ. And I think that had OQ and Kane played, that Najin probably would have won that series. But instead, CJ keeps on rolling, giving perhaps a little bit of false hope. We'll see how they do. CJ's been playing well, but I just don't think we'll see if it's sustainable.
Well, plus in that scenario, you're allowed to change in the middle of the series as well. So you'd think at least, okay, if it goes to the decider right now, no messing around, bring in the real bot lane, let's win this one. No, instead, let's give CJ a chance.
Well, they just
and then make Space look like a fucking superstar.
Well, to be fair, dude, that Sivir play in Baron Pit was extremely impressive from Space. It's one of the best plays so far this season, and one of the best Baron defenses that I've ever seen. So do give Space a little bit of credit.
Okay, listen, Monty, I said he looked like a superstar, but I'll counter your play with another play from the same game. Do you remember, I think it was in game 2, where Madlife was playing... Who was Madlife playing? What champion was Madlife?
I have to go back and look at the picks.
Okay, when Sivir and who was the Madlife pick?
I will tell you momentarily. Well, it was game 1 where he had the more impressive.
Oh, it was Mad Life was Jana, wasn't he?
That was game 1 with Sivir and Jana.
Okay, it might have been that game, but there was a point where they're fighting from the bottom side up, and they're in the bot lane, but of the team that starts in the top right hand corner of the map. Okay, and they're up towards the top tower, and a fight breaks out, and so CJ's running away down the lane, and so since what's his name? Oh no, I think Mad Life was on Morgana. So in this game, Mad Life was on Morgana, if I remember rightly. So
that was game 3.
Yeah, whatever the play was. Here's the play that happens, okay. Essentially, I can't remember who it was, goes to ult Space. And so rather than just know that Space is an AD carry and he has mechanics and he can just shield himself against the ult, Mad Life, instead of using the black shield on himself to survive, goes, well, I'm playing with Space. And Space doesn't put the shield on himself, so Mad Life just puts the black shield on Space, then gets killed himself. I'll just counter with that play, Monty. I didn't describe it that well. We'll see. Get the concept, okay?
We'll see how it goes.
Mad Life's own instincts betrayed you, I believe, there, my friend.
We'll see how it goes down the stretch. I mean, I think that CJ's looking good right now. I, too, am skeptical as to whether they can actually sustain this run and this level of play that we're seeing at the moment, especially when they do seem to be getting a helping hand. First off, SK Telecom had terrible drafts in the games that they played against CJ. I think they got overconfident. They played EasyHoon in one game, and then Najin played Zephyr and Pure instead of Kane and OQ. So we'll see. You know, you do have to hand it to CJ that even though they have 3 subs, they're not like switching out. They've been actually very dedicated to staying with their main roster, and it doesn't look like their subs are going to get a whole lot of play this season.
What was weird, though, is that I thought the third game was a perfect example of this. The fact that you kept commenting in the cast that it's like the game itself almost wanted CJ to win because they were getting all the dragons, all the barons, and yet Najin was still hanging in there. What was interesting about that whole series was CJ never really was superior in teamfights. Actually, they could be weak in teamfights and it could get turned on them, you know. Yeah, Shy played well. Yeah, Space had some good moves. But actually, what was winning CJ these games and making all the games close, and in fact, what helped them against SKT, is CJ actually seems to have some kind of really good shot calling or something, some bizarre concept like this, Monty. Shot calling, knowing when to take dragons uncontested, rotation. They were actually very good strategically in all these games they've won so far.
And their vision setup was much better as well. I think Mad Life has really bounced back in that regard. So that was interesting to see. And Ambition also has been doing well in terms of vision control from the jungle. So I think that CJ does look like a top 4 team in Korea right now. But after their last year of performance, I'm just reluctant to really believe in them yet.
Fair enough. So, SK Telecom. What did you think of their game?
Oh, man. I think that early pick Xerath is still terrible. It just never wins games. And then the camp onto EasyHoon from CJ was really effective at taking Faker out of the game for the most part. But then that same time, you look at SK Telecom versus KT, where they just absolutely bodied KT, and Faker had a very good individual performance in those games, playing well from an early deficit. And SK Telecom looks fine. I think it was just a wake-up call, that CJ game. In such a competitive league with so many good players, it's so rare to even have an undefeated, like even in group stage in the old tournament system, it was uncommon to have an undefeated team in the group stage system, because always there was, even a team like IM2 could take a game off of Samsung Blue in summer and stuff like that. So it's not the end of the world that SK Telecom lost to CJ, and it would be unrealistic to think they would go undefeated, even in terms of best of threes throughout the season. Somebody was going to beat them on some given day.
So I know that Monty is a big fan of Faker outplays, mechanical outplays. And so we had this amazing Syndra play, right?
Yeah, great play.
What did you think of this play overall? Like, could Faker really have known how that would all play out? Was there an element of luck to how it all worked out there?
I think that the fact that he finished off the kill on LeBlanc, that he had just enough damage to do that, may have been a bit lucky. I would assume he thought it was maybe a 50-50. But that's the thing, is that even if he hadn't killed the LeBlanc right there, they would have been able to get objectives because she would have been chunked out enough that they could have done something, moved down the middle of the map. So regardless, it was a good play. But just his reads on situations like that, knowing that it was even possible to get that much damage onto LeBlanc in the first place at such a long range, and especially after being camped and being down early. And people were like, well, why is Faker dying in lane? Well, that was like a composition from KT that was designed to kill him on an immobile champion in lane. And he still made a massive impact in that game and had great team fighting that really turned the game around for SK Telecom. So in my mind, he's looking pretty much the same as ever.
This was like the week of the 6 stuns as well, because we had Faker with that insane stun that he got onto those. I mean, one of them was a clone, but okay, like 3 people, you know. And also we had, even though they lost the game, we had that ridiculous Duke ult
that
like,
was really good.
Landed on 3 guys after he flashed.
4.
That was
4,
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, that was really a good setup and an attempt at a turnaround from Najin. I think Najin would have won that game had he itemized Gnar without the Trinity Force. They could have snowballed it harder. I think that was a mistake.
That's a good game to bring up. You know, one of those past shows where we talked about, like, well, if you play against a Gnar, can't you just wait out the ultimate? That's what CJ did an awesome job of.
Yeah,
when
they really did well.
Gnar. They always waited till it went away to have the fight or to go for the dragon. So they got a lot of them for free as a result.
Yeah, I think they really did a good job about that. They are very poised. It's like CJ's shot calling looks very poised right now. It's a pleasure to watch.
Who else is worth talking about from this week's game?
GE Tigers, Janair.
The team that I've gradually sort of brought you around on this team, I feel. At first you were oh, they won't be that good. Then you gradually start to work your way in. What do you think of them now?
Looking really solid. I think their team fighting is some of the best in Champions so far. Everybody knows their role in every one of these team fights. They look very, very crisp. Janair also looked good in those games too. I think that, again, the early pick Xerath didn't do the GE Tigers any favors and allowed Janair to have a compositional advantage, which I think eventually was the biggest factor in winning them that game. But even after that, Janair really hung in there with GE for the second game. They did get kind of rocked in the third game, but I think that was a compositional disadvantage for Janair. And I think if you look at these 2 games, this is why the best of 3 is very interesting, because I feel in game 1, Janair had a comp advantage, and it was a very long game, and GE was still managed to play that comp about as well as they could have, and Janair kind of squeaked out with a victory in the end. Game 2, I think the draft was pretty even, and GE, grounded out for a win. But in a little bit more decisive manner than Janair did in game 1. And then game 3, I feel that GE had a compositional advantage and they just smashed Janair. So I think using these little metrics of like seeing who won pick and bans and then seeing who played better and how fast they could win with a compositional advantage, you have to say that GE is probably the better team right now. Prey's positioning has been fantastic. He really looks better and better, looking like he's getting back into his old form with each passing week. So that's exciting to see, especially with a laner as strong as Gorilla. Prey's really never played except at All-Stars with Mad Life in 2013 with the support as good as Gorilla is. So that's fun to see.
Speaking of the Janair series, I never thought I'd issue these words, but there was a time in that series when I thought to myself, wow, Ganked by Mom is living in ELO hell right now.
GBM. Yeah, exactly. We talk about that a lot. The players that are really overperforming in terms of their old form this season have been Space and GBM, who have both been playing really, really well. How long will it last? I don't know. But, man, GBM is real good right now.
But what's bizarre is Janair, after how good the Stealth team looked last year, look like they're going to be one of the worst teams overall.
I don't think that's true, actually. I think that there's going to be a big difference between like the top 5 and the bottom 3. I think that unless KT rapidly gets it together, they're not going to...
Okay, so the top 5 and bottom 3, yeah, but where's Janair going to be in this? Is it going to be 5th then?
5th, 4th, somewhere in there probably. But what I'm saying is the games between the top 5 will probably be very competitive.
Okay.
And I think we're going to just see them just crushing the bottom 3 teams in the league. And that'll be it, right? So I anticipate that Samsung, IM, and KT will have very low win rates, whereas maybe the top 5 will all be above 50% and then have very competitive games against each other.
So here's a classic Thorin bold claim. Thorin's bold claim. See, I'm trying to be like that new Riot show and start my own like segments. So I had like facetious / smug Thorin. I had a long segment where I repeatedly attempted to get xPeke to insult former and future teammates. This segment, Thorin's bold claims, which actually in many ways is what every episode of Somebody Insight is. But on this one, I know from day one, Monty, you've been all over SK Telecom. They're going to be the best. Faker's going to be all this. I agree. I still think Faker's the shit. I think he's by far the best player at the moment. I think he's awesome. But I actually have a bold claim for you here, Monty. Possibly it could even lead to a Lord bit, if you please. So here's Thorin's bold claim. Just off the... Obviously, we've only seen like fucking 2 weeks of play. But my claim is this. I don't think SKT will win the LCS this split. In fact, based on what I've seen now, are you ready? I don't think SKT will win any LCS splits this year. I think the two best teams at the end of both of these seasons, well, I'll just say the first season for this two best teams part, will be Najin and GE Tigers. They will be the two best teams when all is said and done. SK Telecom will be third or second at best. It's a pretty bold claim right there, Monty. It's pretty bold. Would you care to wager something here?
I can really see where you're coming from with that, and I've talked about this a lot on the broadcast, and one of the things that I really like about Najin's team is that they have carry potential out of all three lanes. So if we go with Goong, Duke, and OQ, they have more strategic versatility because they are able to have playmakers in each of these positions. And where we can have OQ on like a hyper carry and make plays on a champion like Tristana, Bang's not really able to do that to the same degree. Bang is not a really big playmaking player. So he can clean up the fights with Tristana, but he's not going to play as boldly. He's not going to play as aggressively. He's not going to make those same opportunities that OQ would make. And Duke is, in the top lane, he can go for the big carry plays or he can play the tank. And you can really see the same thing about GE as well, is that, maybe Prey is not the same level of playmaking ability as OQ, and Smeb is only starting to perform well. He finally had a good game on Maokai, so he's starting to be better on some of these tanks that aren't Gnar. And that's very important for him to develop, I think, as a player. But I feel that there's more of a cap to SK Telecom's playmaking ability, primarily because of Bang. Now, they don't necessarily need Bang to be a playmaker, but it is in some ways going to limit their strategies, and that's offset by Faker's insane best playmaking ability and his very large champion pool. So I can see where you're coming from with that, and I do think that in a certain way, especially Najin has a large degree of strategic depth that the other teams in Korea don't have as much of, although G is starting to catch up.
Like even in the history of sports, it's true you can have a lesser team, and if you really do have the best player, they can just win you the one big game you need to get over, and they can. So obviously, Faker alone could make me look totally foolish on this. Could win all the LCSs, LCKs rather, and it might not even matter, But my logic is in general. I prefer, even in a sports context, I prefer the one that's got the best rounded team, the team that makes sense. So to me, on paper, I think Najin's actually the best lineup, man for man, okay? Not just, obviously Faker is the best player, but man for man, they're the best one. And obviously Duke potentially could be the best at his role. We haven't quite seen it. He's going to be top 2 at least, it seems. OQ could be the best at his role again. Goong maybe like second or third at worst. So they are pretty strong players in all the carry positions here. Go to GE. GE is sort of like a mini Najin. All the players are really good, but not quite as good as the Najin ones were there. So Smeb isn't going to be the best, but he could be like third or fourth best. Kuro at times has games he looks pretty good, but he's not going to be Faker or Goong probably. And then Prey, okay, maybe if he got back to his old level, he'd be really good. But even he doesn't have to be really. He can just be like third or fourth best AD carry. Then they've got the X factor. They've got Gorilla as well, obviously, Gorilla to bring his level up.
Possibly top at his position.
So just in terms of if I look at them and I try to predict the whole season, so I'm seeing who's going to be the most consistent, who has the best concept to win game in and game out.
Also, critically
the two teams for me.
Critically though, I think Lee is better than Watch. So they have like a jungle advantage, I feel. So it's going to be close. I think it's going to be close. And I understand what you're saying about SK Telecom. It is really hard. The other thing that we have to remember about GE is they haven't played CJ Najin or SK Telecom yet. So two of their wins are against IM and Samsung, and they had a close best of 3 with Jin Air. So now they actually, because they're a new team, had a very favorable schedule, right? And Pitt was saying this in an interview after their last match, right? It's really that we had the soft schedule to start out with because we're able to slowly ramp up as a team while we get into facing SK Telecom and Najin later in the season. So they feel that their motivation is improving, especially after that win against Jin Air. So they have an edge, I think, in terms of scheduling where they are being allowed to develop and not get early losses due to having less experience than other teams.
The other factor as well is, if I look on the SK Telecom side of things, so many of their impressive wins is just Faker going utterly ham and doing ridiculous shit. And the games that they win just narrowly tend to be the ones where they just like put easy hoon in. And all that happens there is, it's just SK Telecom S with Bengi. So it's not super impressive. It's not going to be any amazing win. And so to me, yeah, they can win with like that over the lesser teams. But against the best teams, it probably has to be Faker going totally ham. Which he can do. He's amazing. But it's hard to rely on that even if it's Faker, you know. Like in League of Legends especially, I know in team games in general, the best player can't go crazy every game. But in League of Legends in particular, it's got other factors that go against going ham. Like, for example, in your role, even if you're doing fine, if the rest of the map's all losing and there's pressure elsewhere, or, you know, sometimes you can't win even if you are the best.
Yeah, and I think for SK Telecom, the limiting factor remains Bengi. They don't have... I mean, there aren't really superstar junglers in Korea at the moment that are on the level of Dandy and Kakao who left. And we'll see who develops over time to fill that role. There's a little bit of a void. But you have to imagine that if SK Telecom could get a very top-tier jungler, because of how safe Wolf and Bang are in lane, he could just sit in mid and top lane and camp for Faker and Marin all day and really up their odds of winning, I feel. Just really, really dedicate the jungler to camping top and mid the entire time and leaving Bang and Wolf entirely alone. And at that point, that team would be a whole lot better, I feel.
Okay, is there anything else in Korea we need to discuss? Do you think there's anything we missed out on there? Okay, one thing we didn't really touch on, we touched on it a bit before last week, but one of the teams who were hyped early on, who really do not look like they're going to live up to the hype, was KT. People thought, if I'd have asked people a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the three names they'd have said would have been SK Telecom, Najin, KT. Those were the three that people thought were going to be doing well. Now suddenly CJ's doing well, GE Tigers picking it up. What do you think of KT overall? Are they going to turn it around? Is this like just early teething problems?
I don't know. I think that KT looks like when they pick a composition, they don't understand the win conditions of that composition and when their power spikes are, how to engage with their composition against another one. So for me, it looks like they're having trouble identifying how to play out team comps and how to read opposing team comps and play in a predictive manner. So I'm not sure they're going to be able to fix that problem, really. And they also just seem to have no real playmakers on the team, and they're unwilling to take risks to even make those plays in the first place. So I really don't have a lot of hope for them. Remember that the big playmakers on KT previously when the Arrows won were Kakao and Rookie, and they're no longer there, and you're left with Someday, who is always more of a follow-up top laner rather than a hard carry top laner, and yeah, Arrow and Hachani, who were okay, like stable, but not amazing. So I feel like they've lost a lot of their initiative and they're struggling to get that back. And I don't know if they're ever going to get it back, frankly.
Okay, I think that's pretty much everything for this week. I won't ask you, do you have any final words? Because you've never so far had any final words. In fact, when you die, I will tell people that your final words were ... and then I'll just walk away.
The ellipsis.
Yeah, ellipsis, that's right. Yeah. And we'll just leave it like that. So as usual, I'll be professional for once, Monty. So go to the YouTube channel if you should so happen to please want to do that. And then if you wanted to subscribe, I'm not telling you not to click that, but if you were to click it, then that'd be your own choice, entirely of your own volition. There's the Twitter, remove the S. It's just without the S, because just thought it'd be cool to mix things up a bit, give you a different look each time. It's like when SKT brings an Easy Honey, you're like, well, why would you do that? Who knows? So they've got the Facebook page as well. I keep all this shit updated, sort of, if I remember, and then this will be out whenever it's out. So now I'll press the stop recording button.